Hey, great Monday evening. It is a beautiful evening in the city of Brownsville, Texas. And let me say, I'm getting another cat.
Hmm. And it's a rescue, which is the best part.
Yeah, it is a rescue cat. And let me say, I hate looking at pictures of cats because then I fall in love with them. And this friend of mine who rescues cats, I asked her, is there a cat out there that needs a place? And yeah, she goes, well, yes. The only thing I think that threw me off a little bit, I was looking and hoping for a female cat, but it will be a male cat that will be neutered, neutered, right? Neuter, spayed.
Neutered.
Oh.
Neutered is male, spayed is female.
No, there's the cat. Este, so we'll see what happens. They sent me a picture of the cat. All I saw was his butt.
Was it what?
His butt while he was
Oh.
sleeping. I'm in love with the cat. But let me say, you guys, that it's not going to be a cat that I'm going to keep at home with my girls. I've sort of wanted an office cat, a cat that I could keep at the office, who will stay here at the office. I mean, I'm here most of the time anyway, and so I'm going to go out there and buy me a litter box, and I have probably these. Oh my god, you know,
Speaking of cats,
it's so cute. But I come to find out that my assistant doesn't care for cats too much,
I
and
think you'll like him after a while.
well, I said, you know, I could always find another assistant. But once you fall in love with a pet, you know,
Mm-hmm.
that's why I find it so unconscientious how a lot of people out there they go out there and mistreat poor animalitos, and it is crazy. It's
Mm-hmm.
crazy because this weekend I got a video of a cat. No, 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 of a guy who I know mistreated a pup, and I went berserk. I know. But
You done?
no, yeah. But Maggie,
I don't hear. I don't like to hear.
who in their right mind, would hurt a poor animal? It just really trips me out. I know.
I didn't hear it, so I can't.
Let me just go through the real comments, and then
Okay.
we'll
Hey, Joe, I've been wondering how your mom's doing.
yeah. I actually saw Joe last week, and I think that things are going good. Good
Okay.
evening, good evening, Joe. Good evening, Snoopy. Guachala, Maggie, el otro vato era. You know, One day I'm going to get people to recognize who I am. Good evening, good evening. Hello, Maggie, Hollywood Montrose. I don't know this one. Hello, Royal, my man. Good evening, good evening, good evening, good evening. David, my man. David. Good evening. Is Lamas. Hola,
Miss
Mr. Boo.
Lamas, let me go back. Miss Lamas, uh, thank you so much for the beautiful words. I cried. I cried when I read them, and then I read them out loud to my husband, and I cried. So thank you. It means a lot. Cállate.
I don't know what I'm talking about, but hola, Mr. Boo. Cat. So, well, I'm going to go through the whole thing. I'm going to go get me a litter box, and I'm going to get me, and have them here at the office. It's going to be a male, so it's going to be okay because it's going to be away from mamas and mimis and mommies. Mama died. And I'm going to have them all here. Good evening, good evening. Buenas noches, Erasmo. Por medio de tu programa, un abrazo para doctor Eder Hernández. Mañana su especial día. Felicidades, doctor Eder Hernández. Un placer. Que Dios lo bendiga. Que Dios le dé muchos más años. Gracias, don José, por avisarnos de que pues mañana cumple años mi buen Eder. Good evening.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday. How is retirement? Maggie's not retired yet.
Not yet.
Uh, 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 um, and I'm not typically a grammar Nazi, but some of the stuff that people ask you to post on your page is mortifying. It was like real speaking, writing. Could yes. Hello, Mr. Castro. Good evening, and we're caught up. Good evening. Good evening. Good evening, Ilda. And tonight, as we did mention, we'll play the message that was sent to Maggie in regards to the books.
Was that the regards to the books or in
Oh
regards to
yeah,
the
the I'll
or
play
the
it right now.
that's the que te pasa. That's not the detective.
¿Qué te pasa, Maggie?
Hi, Mr. De Los Santos.
Hey, Maggie, how are you?
Good. How are you doing?
I'm great tonight. Thank you. Erasmo, ¿cómo estás?
Bien, bien, bien. Gracias a Dios. Saca chisme. No chisme tonight. Guys, as we had mentioned earlier, we have Commissioner Roy Los Santos with us tonight. Commissioner, great day.
I'm sorry, I missed that, Erasmo.
Great day, Commissioner Los Santos.
Oh, yes, it was. Great day. It was a good lunch today. It's been a great afternoon and evening so far.
Yeah, we did have an amazing lunch. Let me tell you, I had, and I mentioned this to Commissioner Los Santos earlier, I had been to New York Deli when it was on Price Road where El Pato used to be at. And let me tell you, that those floors were smelly. It just had smelled that little funky smell. I don't know because it was an old place. I don't know if you knew this, Maggie, but they're actually over here on Central Boulevard now.
Oh, I thought they were still on Price. Okay, no. When did they move to Central? Recently?
No.
Within the last year. It was sometime the second half of 2021, and now they're right next to El Piquín.
Yes. And let me tell you, as the complete 180.
Is it a better place, location?
Yes.
Because their food was good. I like their food. It was just the place was kind of divey, and I don't mind dives at all, but stinky divies, not so much.
No, it's a better location, and what I really love is they've got a private room in the back as well, and they host different organizations to have their meetings there. So it's a great setup. It doesn't look like there's a lot of parking in the front on Central Boulevard, but there's lots of parking in the back.
Oh, and let me say the food. I mean, I agree with Maggie. The food was always good, but for some reason, I mean, I had the fish po' boy, and y tenía esas ganas, just to have some of the fish. And let me tell you, that thing was amazing. I didn't eat much, but because I can't, but it was just amazing. One of the conversations that we had with Mr. De Los Santos today was concerning fish. Because I mentioned to Mr. De Los Santos, I go like, I don't know, me, Maggie, I sort of all of a sudden get these like little brainstorm ideas. And I really wish that we had a catfish place here. Have you been?
I'm not a catfish fan, so
amazing. Catfish is probably one of the best dirty foods out there. And dirty foods because of the catfish itself. But let me say, man, I kind of miss those catfish restaurants that we have up north all over the place, here, even here in Texas. And it'd be so great to have a catfish place here in Brownsville, Texas. With that said, Commissioner Santos, how's economic development going on here in the city of Brownsville?
Wait, real quick. You have to acknowledge the Snoopy comment because I thought the same thing. I'm like, Mr. De Los Santos is going to be on. I might want to call in sick tonight.
Even if he hadn't behaved, I'd still be here with you, Maggie. I told him I want to see Maggie tonight.
Well, let me tell you, one of the things that I know for a fact is that I think the show gets a lot more views when I'm not here.
Okay.
How's economic development coming along in the city of Brownsville?
It could be better. And I think that's not news to anybody. The city manager hears it from me regularly. The mayor hears it from me regularly. I know there are things that are coming and that are in the works, but I am not satisfied yet. I think it still takes far too long to get a permit to open a new business. I think there's still too many instances where a business owner gets a list of things that they need to bring into compliance. And after they do, they get a new list of suddenly things that were never mentioned before. I hear this far too often. And we're not going to solve the problems of the city to where we're balancing out where our revenues come from until we fix our permitting process, because that's the basis of economic development right there, is generating sales taxes, putting wages into the local economy so we're not so dependent on property taxes.
Well, so, yeah. Well, I think one of the things that I am seeing a lot more, a lot more new business starting to pop up slowly, but maybe not at the rate we all wish it would. I'm very very happy that I saw I was scootering down Sunrise Mall. It was kind of cool to have them really working on the main event that's going to happen at Sears. And again, all this is just a lot of great stuff coming in
Yes.
and coming to the city of Brownsville. Let me say it again. We had the carnival out there. Nah, not the carnival, the circus.
Circus.
Hermano Vasquez Circus, the H Vasquez Circus. And one of the things I think I came on here and said is like, who the hell goes to the damn circus? But let me tell you, that parking lot was packed. Did y'all go to the circus?
Not
I have
anymore,
not
but
been in years.
I was going to say people with kids go to the circus.
Packed. Yeah, a lot of my church people were out there and they took selfies aquí con la tribu and el circo. I'm going like, okay, but that just proved me wrong. But I think that one of the things that people want to do stuff that's a little bit different, and that's a cool thing.
Mhm.
One of the things that I've said, and I've stated this, and we'll talk a little bit about the SpaceX. One of the things that I've stated is, I love that we have beaches. I don't go to them. I can't even remember the last time that I was out there at Boca Chica Beach. I'm glad we have the zoo. Don't go to it, but it's just not my thing. I think it's one of those things that you go to once, and for me, at in my ripe age of 32, I just want to go for it a couple of times and then it's over with. But we do want to preserve what we have. One of the biggest concerns in regards to SpaceX coming down is a lot of the environmentalists out there. You had run-ins with environmentalists, Mr. Dos Santos.
Have I had run-ins with environmentalists?
In regards to the concerns with SpaceX.
I get questions from constituents regarding SpaceX, and I understand the concerns. We've got two different types of citizens out there, and we've got those that are really about our geographic area and the recreational opportunities, the fishing, the water sports, things of that nature. And then you've got those who are really about the industry. And I get that. I get both perspectives on it. And I think I've spoken on this before. I'm a big supporter of SpaceX, but I think it's very, very important that we balance what the initial commitment was, as far as this is what the taxpayers of Texas are giving in return for you're telling us this is what's going to happen. And if those things are not matching up, then that needs to be put back into balance.
Well, I think it's, I always tell people it's a crazy full-time job. And I heard someone mention that to me today at the restaurant, like, it's a full-time job, but you do have your own full-time job. But
I was going to ask Mr. De Los Santos, sorry, I don't know what your regular job is.
I work for AT&T. I'm a senior manager in sales operations for AT&T. I've been with them for over 22 years now. My boss is in Atlanta. I'm home based. And essentially, I manage projects related to improving our sales operations in our retail stores nationwide.
Okay. And then would AT&T be the one who's going to set up wireless in Brownsville, or who's going to set up wireless? Do you know? We never even talked about what company would be doing wireless in Brownsville.
I think the way it's leaning right now, because of the stimulus money and the city wanting to build out that middle mile of fiber, AT&T tends to be the type of company that wants to come in and own everything from start to finish, from the network to the customer's home. I'm not aware of many relationships we have where we're piggybacking off of somebody else's network. And that's what would have to happen with the city building out the middle mile. So it wouldn't surprise me if AT&T is not the partner on this, that the city has their fiber network, and then we'll have another third party for the last mile from the middle to the customer's home.
Okay.
Tell us a little bit about your education. What year did you graduate? How long did it take you to complete each degree?
Luckily, there's only 2 degrees, so it's an easy story to tell.
The bachelor's takes more than 4 years. Just so you know.
God, yes.
Yeah, don't expect to be done in 4 years.
Nope. So I graduated high school, Rivera High School, class of 1992. We were the first freshman class when they opened their doors. Very, very proud of that and the legacy I left behind there. College, and I guess I should preface this with, from kindergarten through high school, I was one of the A honor roll students. I was in all the honors courses. extracurricular activities, you name it, I was the good kid. College, I partied my ass off. I went to Texas A&M my freshman year in college, and after my first semester, I think my GPA was a 1.4.
Ouch.
And second semester, I brought it up to a 1.6. But Texas A&M was like, no, sir, you need to go back, bring up your GPA, and then you can reapply. So I came home and started taking classes at UT Brownsville, did that for a few years, did not graduate, dropped out, and focused on my career with AT&T because I had been hired by AT&T at that time. And it wasn't until maybe 2013, 2014. And it's funny because my parents got divorced. And when my parents got divorced, my mom went back to school because she had dropped out of college when I came along. So mom went back to college and she said, I'm going to graduate before you are. And sure enough, she did. Mom got her bachelor's in psychology. And I think I finished my undergrad in 2016. No, maybe 2018. Yeah, 2018, I finished my undergrad in business management.
Boy, you're a recent graduate.
Yeah, very recent on my undergrad. And then I loved the program so much. This was with Western Governors University. So it was online, self-paced. And that's the best environment for me. Being self-paced, really, I get the opportunity to excel. So I never had any aspirations to go after an MBA before, but I was loving the program so much with my undergrad for my bachelor's that I jumped immediately into an MBA. And I finished that in early 2021. And now one of the dreams I'd always had, but never thought I'd get around to it because I'm not the type that's going to quit my job and go back to school, but I always wanted to consider. And now there are online law degrees or hybrid programs where it's mostly online and a little bit on campus. And my understanding is St. Mary's is the first one approved by the Bar Association that's 100% online. So as soon as I'm done with my pretrial diversion, which will hopefully be next month for my DUI, then the next thing I'm going to do is start looking at applying to law school.
See, that's why I think BISD should take into consideration keeping some of the kids virtual if that's the parent choice. I think there's some kids who just do well virtually, independently. You're not. My kid does. My kid enjoys working independently. So I think that's
the key there, Maggie, and you said it perfectly. If that's their choice, but the problem is BISD isn't given the choice.
No. And that's what I was thinking. And all during COVID that we were doing a lot of the virtual, I kept telling people, I think this is going to be a permanent part of education from here on after where school districts are going to need to provide that option. Because,
it should be because, one of the things that I think that, we were fighting for the longest time is that every student learns differently, every student differently.
And virtually is not and hasn't been an option. So
an option before.
Yeah, and we've lost a lot of kids, not just at charter schools. We've lost a lot of kids to virtual schools. Quite a few. So we provided that. I wonder if we wouldn't get some of these kids back because they could still be part of the sports or the extracurricular activities in some way.
Absolutely. And think about like our migrant students. I remember growing up, we have migrant students. They were there part of the year. Then imagine the turmoil of new school, new friends, new teachers, where if you're online, then even if your family has to relocate, you've still got that same education.
Yeah. When my husband first started getting his bachelor's degree, he told me I'm going to do it online. And this was like 1999, 2000. And I was telling him, what do you mean online? That's not a thing. You have to go sit in class. And by this time I had gotten my second master's. So I was like, this isn't an option for you to do it online. And he kept saying, yeah, it is. It was St. Joseph's College in Maine.
Nice.
And he got it. He ended up doing a lot of his classes in class during the summers because that worked better for him. Actually, it turned out. But it's so funny because now it has to be an option that the school district provides.
Absolutely. Right. That's one of the good things that came out of the pandemic.
Yeah.
Guys, if you would please just slow down on the questions a little bit. I want to get to every single one of them out there, but I'm just seeing them go. And I'm like, wait, just hold.
And let me tell you, Erasmo, I'm happy. I know usually you do a show for about an hour, but if you've seen me on Manny's before, I've done 3-hour shows, and I do not mind.
I don't want to be here.
If there are questions that people want answered, I'm willing to stay for as long as it takes to answer those questions.
I'm good for about 10:20, then I'm out.
Just to close out the education thing. Look, I think it's wonderful. I've shared my my academic tragedies. I think at 1.4 GPA was amazing because let me tell you, it took me 25 years to finish a bachelor's degree. 25 years, and again, is that I came back to school at an older age, but again, is that it's not easy, and I'm glad we discussed this in regards to the virtual learning. I hope that BISD starts to implement some type of form of curriculum that
That's an option.
an option.
Yes.
100%.
Te gané. It took me 26 years.
Yeah, by 1 year. It's crazy, but that's the way it happens.
And before you jump off of Hollywood there, I did want to say I love your picture, your profile picture there, Hollywood. That's one of the movies I love the most from back in that era was the movie Mannequin. And it kills me that
that's right.
You can't find it on any of the streaming services. It's crazy.
Yeah.
I wish I could stream that movie. I love that movie.
Amazon has it, I think.
Are you sure?
I don't know.
No, I think you can just buy the DVD on Amazon. You can't actually watch. You can't stream the movie.
Right. Let me tell you, they have everything.
I've been looking for that one and Silkwood. I've been trying to find Silkwood on a streaming service and I can't find it.
Let's go. Stubby, pues I'm going to jump in. I want to hear Roy's side about 3 topics. The whole museum incident, the hiring and refiring of Mostad, Brian Martinez assisted hiring process, and the Camille Theater issue. Let's do the Camille Theater issue because I think that we'll start. Let's start with that. The Camille Theater issue. I think it was one of the things that was of great concern to a lot of the folks. I think most than anything concerned to the individuals who were actually involved in the Camille Theater. And I'll share my quick concern. I love the theater, and I got to see Commissioner de los Santos this weekend at the UTRGV
Youth Symphony.
And let me tell you, that was amazing. A great event. It was good seeing the commissioner there. But it's one of those events that we all need as a community to continue to go out there and support. I've always been a patron of the fine arts. I try to go as much as I can. And Camille Playhouse is very dear to my heart. I love the theater. You want to address the Camille Theater concerns?
I won't go too in depth on Camille only because I feel it would be unfair to do that without Camille here to represent themselves as well. I can tell you that I know the letter's been circulating on different people's social media. They've been posting on Facebook, and there's a lot of inaccuracies in that letter. And I think Camille has walked some of those statements back already when we've had our meetings with the city. So there are some pain points we're trying to work through. Camille is actively appealing the decision that came from the audit committee, and we're meeting with Camille, reviewing any additional documentation they're submitting to us. And I think we've got another meeting coming up in the next couple of weeks because we just got new information they submitted again last week. And we expect we'll be able to reach some type of an amicable arrangement. But it's important that we say the decision, because there's been a misconception about the decision that came out. The decisions that came from the audit committee, and this was public information, it was part of the city commission meeting, was that with regard to Camille and with regard to Gladys Porter Zoo, based on the information the committee had at the time the applications were turned in, there was not enough to support that a sufficient portion of the monies that had been awarded in the previous year had been spent already. And as such, the recommendation was to give them both another year to finish the spending of the funds, and we would go from there. And both, I know Gladys Porter Zoo has indicated they plan to appeal. I don't think I've seen that appeal yet, but I know they had turned in a lot of the financials that had been missing. And with Camille, they've turned in some amended financials that are going to be reviewed by the audit committee now.
Well, and I think we had this conversation earlier during lunch a little bit. I've shared my concerns with the Commissioner de los Santos in regards to some of the concerns that I've shared here in regards to, gerrymandering a lot of the historical district in the city of Brownsville to encompass, certain businesses that may, individuals that probably voted on it, they had interest in it. So, one of the things that I was hoping for was, well, if we're going to, put a big old little, lopside out there to cover a certain restaurant down Palm Boulevard, well, let's just, screw it. Let's just put a big old loop out there and just throw the zoo and Camille Playhouse into the historical district, because there's nothing more historical, I think, for a lot of the folks here in the city of Brownsville than.
They're not in the historical district?
No, I'm pretty sure that they are. And I don't know that for a fact, but I know Sombrero Festival headquarters, which is right across the street from the park and the zoo. I know we're in the historical district because when we were looking at putting our sign up, we had to get a certificate of appropriateness from the Historic Preservation and Design Review Board. So I think we are within the boundaries.
Why did they qualify then for a lot of the different benefits that that fall under the downtown historical district area? And,
I,
or did they just neglect to file for a lot of these grants that were being offered by BCIC?
I don't think they applied. To my knowledge, there was no application submitted for those.
Well, but then I wonder if they do fall in the district, then they probably could qualify for a lot of those monies, because I understand that a lot of the funding that comes from them are from private donors, and some of the monies that come from the city of Brownsville. And if I'm not mistaken, and again, I'm not, and again, I had this conversation with some of the MIDI people. Part of the money that goes to the Camille Playhouse and to the zoo is funneled through the MIDI in the foundation or the
No.
cultural district.
No, the monies that come from the city, that I'm aware of, the only funds that come from the city of Brownsville to Camille are through the hot tax grant. And
Okay.
those are collected, of course, from hotel occupancy fees. And so those are restricted to be spent a very specific way in accordance with state statute, plus whatever regulations the city may choose to impose as well. I'm not aware of any other funding that goes to Camille from the city of Brownsville. And I know with regard to the relationship with the MIDI Cultural District, Camille has a seat on that board. And there are times that there is joint advertising that happens that Camille and the other nonprofits pitch into some of those ads because they're going to be included in those ads. But I'm not aware of monies going from the MIDI Cultural District to any of the entities. I think it flows the other way.
That's great. So what we're saying is maybe they should take advantage and have conversations with the city in regards or to with BCIC and see what kind of grants they can apply to. Because one of the things that I've shared out there, and I shared it here a lot of times, I don't go to the zoo because I think it's just not my thing. But doesn't mean that I don't want to preserve it. It's the same thing that the argument that we were making, because a lot of the folks were saying, well, everyone's now concerned about the beach, but nobody would go to it, and those people are there bitching about it. Well, it's not so much. That's just because I don't use it doesn't mean I don't want it there in case my kids want to use it. But I think that's one of the things that concerns me about the zoo. I want the zoo to succeed. I most definitely want the Camille Playhouse to succeed. I go more to Camille than I go to the zoo or the beach put together. But
and I hardly ever go to the Camille. When I go, I have a great time, but I hardly ever think to go. And I was thinking about it yesterday when you were talking about the fact if they were to lose money, that one of the things that was brought up during COVID, that we were all staying at home. What was like one of the main things that helped us get through COVID and being quarantined and being stuck at home was the fine arts, whether it was music or television. I was so excited when Hamilton was made available on Disney Plus, because just the ability to be able to do that from home when we can't go to ourselves there to the theater. But yeah, we depend so much on music and the arts, but it seems even within the school districts, and not just ours, generally nationwide, we just don't put enough monies into it.
But with that said, and I'm glad you brought that up, Maggie. One of the biggest concerns that I had, Commissioner, and you weren't a commissioner back then, but I'm sure that you share the same concerns. One of the big concerns that I had was that during the pandemic, both the Camille Playhouse and the zoo, they had GoFundMe pages, and I'm going like, what? Kind of like a trippy deal. Like, why would they have GoFundMe pages when we've got the city of Brownsville out here, that needs to make sure that these places, they have enough funds to feed the damn animals. Because I don't want no damn animal going hungry just because we're not out there,
watching a move.
Yeah, right. And but I'm glad that that the Camille Playhouse people are having conversations with individuals at the city of Brownsville, and our hope is that it gets resolved and that everyone leaves the table happy with the solutions that come forward. But we want them to succeed. We want the
Absolutely.
We want the
Camille did a great job during the pandemic on both as far as the art side of it, putting together online streaming performances. They had a living room cabaret where different musical performances were done by different individuals over the weeks. Then there were one or two plays that were done that were just very few cast members, but that were streamed online as well. And they continued that through the fall and over the winter until it got to the point where things started to open back up again, and they could start with the summer workshops and then get into the full season. And I was at both the opening and closing performances of the Best Little Whorehouse in Texas, which was their season opener. And I got to see their Christmas play as well. I missed Our Lady of the Tortilla. I heard amazing things about it. I know Marty DeGregorio did a great job in that. But I did get to see the Christmas one with Lilia as Ebenezer Scrooge. That was a fantastic performance. I didn't get to see Sweet Charity because I was tied up with Shadow Days and Sombrero Festival. But I'm looking forward to the rest of the performances this season.
Man, yeah. I didn't even realize there were this many performances. And I've always wanted to go and volunteer, but either for like the painting of the stage or the sewing of costumes. That's something
they love volunteers. They would love to have you. I have no doubt.
We'll do number 2.
And I want to say also just a quick plug, because I know Leadership Brownsville is in class 37 right now. And each year when they have a class, they choose a fundraiser to conduct as part of their project, throughout their year as part of their project. And this year, that class has chosen to restore or remodel, I believe it's the dressing rooms backstage at Camille Playhouse.
Oh, that's wonderful.
So if you see Leadership Brownsville out there raising money, that's what it's going to. I'm very proud we had several of them volunteering at Sombrero Festival. So they'll be receiving a donation from Sombrero Festival for their hours, and that'll go to benefit Camille.
Good. And if they need other volunteers to go out there and help them out, let me tell you, we'll promote it. And I love the arts. Let's go number 2. The hiring of Brian Martinez as an assistant, the hiring process. And I know that I submitted, and I'll go into this. I submitted open records requests in regards to it because again, a lot of the stuff that I asked for is not necessarily, and I shared this with Mr. Dos Santos today. Most people don't understand. I do have a job. I do work. I have an office that I have to keep, and I'm not really online most of Roman this morning was saying, well, you remember that picture that you shared, that you posted that I had on my page? I go like, Roman, I don't see a lot of the stuff that goes posted on my page. But we did ask for open records request because one of our concerns, it was one of my concerns is, we do have Brian Martinez, who is your chief of staff, who does I guess I'm going to believe that maybe does the same work that my assistant does for myself here in the city. But our concern was, how did he go through the process of acquiring a city email and a city badge, when not directly an employee of the city of Brownsville?
Well, and that it was at my request, and I know that we've had situations like that before, whether it's contractors who need access to city sites because of work that they're doing, or interns who are coming on board for the summer who are not employees, and even commissioners. We're not city employees, but we have these credentials because of the positions we hold. With Mr. Martinez, I specifically requested that he be assigned a city email because I've seen over the years, as part of my service on different city boards, when public information requests come in, I've seen board members say, I don't have anything, and they turn absolutely nothing over. And the people have a right to see anything and everything that's been going on with regard to their city, even if it's just a citizen appointed to a board. You're doing something to represent the people of Brownsville. They have a right to see that when a public information request comes in. But when they're left to do it on their own personal accounts, the citizens have no access to it. They're at the mercy of that individual to tell the truth. And a lot of times it doesn't, or not a lot of times, but I've seen instances where it does not happen, where someone will say, nope, I have absolutely no emails, nothing with city business, nothing to turn over, which I believe to be a lie. But with Mr. Martinez, I did not want that possibility to exist. So I asked the city to assign him a city email specifically so that any public information request that comes in, it's not even up to him whether or not to turn anything over. Yes. Staff has full access to his email account, everything that's been sent and or received, and they can produce that at the drop of a hat for any citizen who requests it. And the cost, because I think with Microsoft, there's a monthly cost on that it gets deducted from my compensation as a city commissioner. I think when we were still sorting that out, the first 6 months, I wrote a check to the city to cover the cost of that. But since then, it's supposed to be deducted from my compensation, either monthly or quarterly. I don't get a statement. I just see the deposits come in. So I need to go back and see if it's happening monthly or quarterly, but that's the arrangement right now.
Well, that's actually a great answer. And it makes sense in the sense of it being transparent. And again, one other thing, for transparency reasons, because I agree, there's a lot of, I think, back and forth that might go on that, might be saying, well, you all don't have access to it. And in that sense, it makes sense. But
And let me thank you also, Erasmo, because a lot of people are like, well, he's coming after you. He's hassling you. I'm like, no. I said, I don't mind watchdogs. I said, we need watchdogs. People need to be asking the tough questions to make sure every public servant is being held accountable. I said, so I welcome those, and open book, whatever he's asking for, please turn it over. Because yeah, there should be nothing that gets hidden.
And I did hear that.
Good. I'm glad.
Yeah, that's true. And that's one of the things I tell Maggie, because, and again, and I think, look, let's just be completely honest. I think who on the city commission is also asking the same questions. Who around in the city of Brownsville is asking those same questions, because a lot of times, a lot of the folks, they seem to think like, and I go like, well, just ask it yourself, but they need to go through it, which is okay.
And that's okay. And let me build on that. And because just like you at Erasmo, you get bombarded with concerns from citizens across the city. And there's all sorts of things going on that could be looked into, whether it's from BISD to the city of Brownsville to the county, anywhere and everywhere else. But even just within the city, it's more than any one person can handle. So I'm sure just like you've got people who keep you informed on different things going on because you can't be everywhere at once, it's the same concept. 100%. And I've got, it's not just Mr. Martinez. I've got several folks who work with me and attend different functions that I can't make, keep me informed of different things that they see, not just limited to District 3, but citywide. And I could not be as effective as a commissioner if I did not have that resource. With regard to Mr. Martinez, and I've even gotten pushback on, well, why do you have to call him a chief of staff? Why can't he just be an assistant? So because when he's dealing with a resident or with a citizen, it's important that they know they've got somebody who, yes, absolutely can speak for me and can say, the commissioner will do X, Y, and Z, or the commissioner will look into this for you. And it makes them feel a little bit more confidence that they're not dealing with an assistant. They're dealing with the chief of staff.
And I'm wondering, previous to you becoming a commissioner, have you also, I'm guessing you have, since you're from Brownsville, you wanted to know what's going on and have communication. So yes. Just as that, BISD, and nothing to do with current administration, I'm not going to just blame current administration. Stop it.
Cease and desist, Maggie.
Huh? Cease and desist. Stop it. Yeah, I'm stopping it right now. No, I've worked for the school district. I started 31 years ago. Traditionally, teachers have gotten retaliated against for questioning things. And horrible. Half the time is we just want to know what's going on. We just want some kind of communication, transparency. Same with the city. Part of what I think is an advantage to with the pandemic and COVID is everyone had time to take to pay attention kind of to what's going on. Erasmo has opened up not just on you, but on everybody else, the school district, the city, the county, the school district, the county, what's going on. And we just want to know, we want to be involved. And we've said it on the show. I would rather be here talking about how great a city Brownsville is. I don't know if you were like I was when I was in high school. Yes, many years ago. When I graduated in '86, I wanted out. And it was like Austin, Fort Worth, Dallas. That was it. Or San Antonio, not Houston, because Houston didn't have that such great calling at that time. But I wanted out. I did not want to come back and live in Brownsville. Now that I stayed here because my parents are here, and I stay here because the job I wanted is here. The regional school for the deaf is here, and that's where I wanted to work. So I ended up being here. But I tell my daughter, this is a great place to raise a child. I'm glad I stayed here to raise her in Brownsville, but I want Brownsville to continue getting better in every aspect, culturally, economically. Erasmo's always giving a hard time about like the bike trails. I want them to develop. I kind of want to be where Austin is headed. Not that we have to be Austin. Don't make that face at me. But downtown, I want downtown. I was telling him on Saturday, I went to 7th and Park. They provided a pop-up for arts and crafts. My daughter and I spent about $100 within the hour because we bought stuff. Oh, and I wanted to show it to you too. I have it here because I wanted to show it. It also says he has a friend that loves duck watches.
That's adorable.
And if you can see the tails, it says 956.
Oh, I hadn't noticed that.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
We bought so many things. And I want that. I want to be able to have that kind of stuff available to me. The North Park Plaza has opened up a few little local owned shops. the ice cream shops that open up, we go to La Michoacana now more than we go to Dairy Queen. We're trying to do Vibe more than we're doing Starbucks because we want to promote small
Buy local.
business owners. What?
Vibe is amazing.
Yeah, it is.
Vibe is good. I like Nerve also.
Nerve is amazing.
That's the one on North Park Plaza, right?
Plaza.
Yes.
Okay, that's the one I haven't been to yet.
The owners own Candy Apple at the mall, and
okay.
Levi popcorn.
And Cafe Canasto on Paredes Line Road, right across from O'Reilly. Fantastic. The coffee is excellent. The empanadas are excellent. If you haven't had those, you got to go by.
I haven't had a chance to go there. Now, La Michoacana ice cream, we go to the one on Alton Glore. If you want to get some good milkshakes, I do the mango and coconut milkshake. It is delicious.
¿Dónde?
La Michoacana on Alton Glore, next to the Pizza Hut on Stagecoach. Yes. Yeah,
have you been to Ganadera?
Huh?
La Ganadera, right next door to
Right
Pizza
next to it. Yes, right next to it.
I love that.
Their strawberry milkshake are to die for. The amount of ice cream they put in it is what are you making that face for?
Vibe is moving to Southmost and International in April. I did not know that.
Oh, okay.
I heard they were opening a new location. Yes,
it's awesome.
I had heard that.
What is it, second, or is it they're just moving completely?
That I don't know.
But it's amazing. But let me try to make Vibe Cafe is amazing, guys. Please go out there and support local.
Mm-hmm.
So let me say two things on some of the topics we're talking about. When it comes to Mr. Martinez as an assistant to me, and as I've learned as we've looked at this, one, I'm not the first city commissioner or member of the city commission who's had an assistant in the past, and I'm not going to name names, but to my understanding, I am the first who has fully reimbursed the city of Brownsville to ensure there is zero taxpayer dollars spent on anything related to my chief of staff and him working in his capacity for me.
That's good. Thank you for
And then when you were talking about this being a great city, Maggie, I can really relate to that. I was not the type when I graduated, I'm out of here and I'm never coming back.
Mm-hmm.
I did want to get out of here because I wanted to see other things and I wanted to see more. When I was away, that's when I realized how good we had it growing up in Brownsville. The biggest eye opener for me, and again, I was at Texas A&M, and this is nothing against the campus. I love it. I'm an Aggie till the end. But I was very involved in student organizations and got to become an officer. And so I would check our mailbox at the student union. We started getting invites to KKK rallies. Yeah, exactly.
Wow.
And I'm like, this is 1992.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, this is the kind of thing I'd only ever seen in movies. And those are movies that were things that happened in the 50s and 60s in this country. So to see it live and in person at that age, I was like, oh my God. And realizing that I was never exposed to this in Brownsville, Texas.
Yeah.
And I never even felt like I saw racism growing up in Brownsville, Texas.
Hey,
and
I've said that before. I've said that before. We went to a club. No one told my mom. We went to a club in downtown Dallas because it was 40 minutes away from. I went to Texas Women's University. We went to a club and I had to call mom at a certain time. So at that time we had to use payphones.
Mm-hmm.
This is 1990-ish. So I went outside. They had a little food truck, and I asked, "Is there a payphone around here?" They sent me half a building down. I had not, and Erasmo knows I'm like this, oblivious to my environment, had not noticed that I walked in between a bunch of skinheads. Oh. And I went over to use the phone, and I had 3 of them go around me, start imitating me on the phone. And then that's when I was like, oh my, when I started noticing the tattoos, full skinhead tats, and I was like, I need to get out of here. And that was one of the things that I used to tell friends. I never knew I was a minority in Brownsville because the mayor was Latino, the chief of police was Latino, majority of my teachers were Latinos. So I didn't grow up in that kind of environment where I felt oppressed, more from my parents who thought a Latina Mexican girl should be staying at home. Kind of a thing. Not too much. Don't want to go tell my mom and dad I said anything. But yeah, Brownsville is a good city to live in. You need to leave to see what else is going on out there. Yes. And I tell my daughter that all the time. When you go to college, I actually want you to leave Texas. Experience it. And then if you want to come back to Brownsville, by all means. But first go out and get to know something outside of Brownsville.
I know over the years, people have asked me to, because I'm so involved and I work with a lot of organizations, and they're like, you need to help us start a Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. Or you need to help us bring down a chapter of LULAC. And I'm like, I don't see a need for anything that differentiates in race or color or anything down in Brownsville, because we really have a good sense of community. I don't think there needs to be a separate chamber. I don't think there needs to be a separate anything, because the business owners, the residents, we all work together regardless of the color of people's skin. And I'm very proud of that.
Yeah, we're good. We're cool. Except when people want to make fun of my dress. The last one, the whole museum incident, the hiring and rehiring of Daniel Mostad. And I think the commissioner and I had this conversation Tuesday
Yes.
night. And the commissioner shared with me, I had nothing to do with the hiring of Daniel Mostad, the rehiring of Daniel Mostad. And I said, I believe it. I believe you, Commissioner. It's just a lot of the questions are out there. And I also shared with the commissioner something that I shared here publicly. I said, I shared with the commissioner, and I shared that conversation. I said, Commissioner, all we wanted was a statement as to what's going on, because if it would have been nipped at the butt here, it wouldn't have gone to this big old thing. And what happens when you let it go into something this big, and people's minds starts racing. All of our minds start racing, and we're going like, what's going on, to the point that a lot of the parents were out there concerned in regards to, well, we're talking about videos with children that are 6-month-old, 3-month-old, and a lot of people are going like, my God, is my child in those videos? And we just didn't know. And I shared this with Commissioner, then I'll let him share his piece in regards to it. And like I mentioned to the commissioner, I said, yeah, and that's fine. And we all understand that, some of us have been through the court process, and we know that a lot of information cannot be shared because, it's an ongoing investigation and everything. And there's no press release on it. The issue that we all experience as a community, and this is the conversation I had with Mr. Commissioner Los Santos, was that, during that time, the mayor goes out and posts, someone tagged my wall. And everyone's like going like, oh, okay. But a lot of people are like, well, where's the information in regards to the other? We just want to know. And we got the statement. And I appreciate that the museum this week, he put out a statement. And I appreciate that the mayor, attempted to put out a statement this week. And but Commissioner Los Santos, what is your take on the Daniel Mostad and the Brownsville Children's Museum?
Children's Museum of Brownsville.
I see.
So let me start with what brought me. I mean, aside from, and you and I, whenever we've seen each other in public, it's always been cordial. It's always been civil. There's never been a bad interaction with you and me.
Never.
And same thing last Tuesday. What made me reach out, I think Friday night and this weekend, was because I caught the recording of the show from Friday. And I think you were running late to that show, and it was Sam and Maggie and Frankie. And I was really troubled because in watching the show every now and then, I know who the crazies are who come on, and there's no saving that. I get that. But like Maggie, Sam, Frankie are people that, they're very level-headed. They're very reasonable, and they have legitimate questions, and I got that. What concerned me the most and what made me say, okay, it's time, is that Frankie made a comment. He's like, look at Commissioner de los Santos. He was supposed to be, the next hope for the city. And now everything he does is against the will of the people. And I reached out to Frankie, and I'm hoping we're going to get together later this week. And I told him, like, Frankie, please tell me one thing that I've done that you think is against the will of the people, because I'm not aware if anything like that is the case. And I told him, I said, and I'm not upset. I said, this is me reaching out because I know you're smarter than that. But it seems to me like the only ones doing the talking out there are the people spreading misinformation and lies. And when there's no truth out there to counter that, people start to question. And then they start to question, well, if it isn't true, why isn't somebody speaking out against it? And so I get that. And Erasmo and I talked about this at lunch, the movie The American President, and the Michael J. Fox scene with Michael Douglas. And he was absolutely right. And I went back and I watched that again today. And he's absolutely right. In the absence of leadership, people are going to start listening to whoever steps up to the mic. And unfortunately, up to now, it's been the people who would rather sow dissension and spread hate than the people who are legitimately interested in the truth. I'm proud to say, first and foremost, people are like, why did you wait so long? Or you're finally getting around to it. When I was first contacted, it was by Manny Fawcett from Manny Behind the Mic. And this was around February 7th, February 8th, saying, hey, FYI, people are saying that you were the one responsible for his hiring over there. I'm like, that's insane. I said, put me on your show right now. Within 24 hours, I was out with a statement I had nothing, absolutely nothing to do with him ever applying, getting hired, getting rehired, getting fired. No involvement whatsoever. To the best of my knowledge, because I've seen nothing to that effect. The Mitty Foundation, the Mitty family, and even this young man's mother had nothing to do. I don't think his mom even knew he had applied for a job at the Children's Museum when he was hired there. The folks at the Children's Museum, I've asked them, and I have every confidence in the answers they're giving me because I've worked with these people for years now, and I trust them. Everything was done, application, background check, credentials looked at, everything checked. And I think even today, I assume because there's not a conviction yet, but everybody, there's enough public information out there about him now. Go run a background check. Anyone, please go out, run a background check. And if you find something, please bring it to us, because I'm not aware of any background check that ever showed that there was anything of concern that this individual should not have been hired by the Children's Museum. So I don't see any fault with the organization whatsoever. And they've let me know, of course, I wasn't part of the conversations, but when the officers, the agents from Homeland Security were there, they assured the staff at the museum, this has nothing to do with anything on the museum premises at the museum regarding any of the children here. This has completely separate. Why they chose to come and get him there or interview him there, that I don't know. But that they assured staff at the museum, this has nothing to do with the museum or the children who've been to the museum.
And I never thought it would have been the museum's fault. Sorry, let me just say this real quick, Erasmo. It was just the fact that information was not giving out completely. And it's the same thing that I've said with BISD. When all of COVID was going on and when all of the teachers were getting sick and students were getting sick, we just want to know. That was it. It's just give us the information so then we can then figure out what we need to do for ourselves as professionals, personal level. We can move forward with the information that we have.
Absolutely.
And I'll go two quick things. And I think that's part of the reason why, again, going back into when if it would have been attacked when it was here, it would have been a different story. And I'll tell you why the links, and this is what happens. And Commissioner Los Santos and I had this conversation. What happens is when there isn't any information, individuals starts putting these dots everywhere, and it's the only linking that can be done. They go like, well, this is what we have. And this is part of the problem. When you don't have the in-between, you try sometimes to loop into the link, and that's where you get perhaps at certain time misinformation. And look, and one of the things as a lot of people might go out there, well, Erasmo was just about misinformation. Well, no, help us fill in the blanks, and then we're all going to be on the same page in regards to the information. I think, and to not to defend the individuals who linked those situations, but we have an individual who comes into the city of Brownsville, who's Anglo, who is the son of the individual who is part of the middies. As the son of the CEO or CFO of the CEO, the CEO of the Middies. So automatically they say, well, Mr. Los Santos is on the foundation board. So we start putting all these little points together, and it comes back to Mr. Los Santos. So, and I'm not excusing anyone's idea out there. It's just that nobody knew any better, right. And that is one of the reasons why I think it came out to be say like, well, then there must be a link in that situation. As to, it's just too many little dots everywhere, and people start coming up with their own idea. That's the first. I'm going to go.
I was just going to say one thing I would say to you and to your listeners especially, because, yep, I get you're going to hear all kinds of crazy things out there. Anytime anyone is telling you something that sounds just outrageous, that if this commissioner is actually doing that, we've got to do something about it. Anytime you hear anything that would make you feel like that, ask them, show me. What can they show you that's tangible that says, yep, look, Commissioner De Los Santos did this, as other than just speculation? And well, no, there must be something wrong because he's associated with the foundation. Ask people for proof. Ask them to show you something, because if they can.
And I think a lot of, and again, I'm not excusing a lot of, because
of course
I've shared this with Mr. Dos Santos. A lot of the concern that came my way was from a lot of the parents. Yes. A lot of the parents were like very, very, very concerned. And the issue, and again, is there was not enough information that was shared out there in order for you to say like, well, we feel a little bit more at ease that that none of my children were involved, that no one got hired because of the compadrismo system or because as a favor to the middies or to Mr. Los Santos or to anybody else. So there was no information out there, and it was just not forthcoming. But again, when Mr. Los Santos mentioned this to me on Tuesday, immediately I said I believe that 100%. I don't necessarily disagree with you in that sense. It's just we just don't know.
Of course.
The second issue is, and again, maybe you could clarify. Maybe you have a little bit more information, and I understand the separation between city commission and the city of Brownsville as as an administration as their function. Something that me and Mr. Santos spoke about this today in regards to the lack of knowledge. A lot of times, a lot of our students have when they come out of school, and they don't have that clear understanding in regards to what the city government, what type of government we have. And that's what happens at BISD as well. A lot of the board members, they seem to think that they give the orders. And that's not the way it goes. They are there to oversee, not to necessarily say this is going to happen. But what we had understood was that Mr. Mostad was hired at the museum, was terminated because of putting in some talk bad about this the museum on his social media page. Was terminated and then was rehired again, and then was found to be smoking pot in the parking lot, and then continued to have his job there. So all this is going like, well, anyone else out there would have been terminated and never been asked to come back. Is any of that factual, or do you know any of that?
I do know that he was terminated at one point and then brought back. And I think that your impression there with regard to social media posts and things of that nature, that may have some merit. As far as smoking pot, that's a complete lie. There is 100% lie. I know the individuals who are spreading that lie, they should be ashamed of themselves, because there's absolutely nothing that was ever related to drug use on that premises. Because I also couldn't imagine the administration at the Children's Museum bringing back someone who had been doing drugs on city property or Children's Museum property. There's nothing like that was ever tied to his dismissal.
And that's good to know, because it's Brownsville.
Nothing against smoking pot.
Of course not. No, if I were ever in the legislature, I'd vote to legalize it.
Yeah,
I think it should be
into that. Yeah, but and some of it is, Mr. De Los Santos. Some of it is it's Brownsville. We know how Brownsville works.
Mm-hmm.
So some of that stuff, people already in Brownsville say, it's Brownsville. And then there's some things that you're like, no way, that would never happen. And then you find out, Fajita Gate, Barbacoa Gate, and you're sitting there going, what?
Maybe it does happen.
Huh?
And maybe it does happen.
Yeah, so that's why there's times when you're like, no way, and then it does turn out to be true. So it's at the point, and you're right. We should be informed, but that's also the thing is we want you to give us the information, not just you, citywide, district-wide, county-wide.
Catfish Parlor back in Austin days, amazing. Catfish King up in Northeast Texas, amazing. Let's go through again. I think people are going to start getting upset we don't get it. Valley International Airport, new nonstop flights coming soon by Brownsville. ¿Qué pasa? Yeah, that's been one of the that's been one of my concerns for a long, long time. Again, I think that a lot of the different cities here in the Valley are eating our lunch. One of the things that I've made mention, and I'll share this, try to do this really, really quick because I don't want to go into the whole spiel again with people. But we are the Brownsville South Padre Island Airport. South Padre Island is owned 90% by individuals from Monterrey. People from Monterrey don't want to fly into Brownsville because they can't. They'll fly into Harlingen because they can, because we have, I think, fly like a Frontier or something. Also, we have the airport in McAllen that is out there, doing these flights to Monterrey because they want that Monterrey money. Monterrey is the richest city per capita in Latin America. Why aren't we fighting for that Monterrey money if we have right here in our backyard South Padre Island, and our airport's even called Brownsville South Padre Island Airport?
Mm-hmm. No, we absolutely should be, and I agree with you 100% that the other cities are eating our lunch as far as I'm concerned. And this goes back to when all of us were children. The city screwed up when we didn't land Southwest, when we chose Braniff over Southwest. And in my opinion, we have never gotten to the point where we should be with regard to tourism and air travel to our airport. I know there's a lot of work being put into bringing an airline and bringing those types of flights in. One of the biggest problems is that a lot of airlines, they have proximity regulations to where, I'm not going to have planes flying in just 20 minutes away. If they're already flying into Harlingen, chances of getting them into Brownsville are a lot more challenging. So that's part of what we're up against. And then, of course, because the other airports already have a steady stream of traffic, it's a lot easier to lure an airline when you can show we've got so many passengers coming through already. When Brownsville, we're not there yet. So there's a lot of incentivizing that has to be done to give an airline the confidence to come and try operating in Brownsville, and to where it's not going to be a huge loss for them. Yeah. And then we've got to do our job in promoting the city and ensuring we're targeting the right destinations for traffic going back and forth.
Well, it's unfortunate because I agree, and it's one of the things that we've shared here regularly. Back then, the vision was not to upkeep our airport, which was the airport in the valley, upkeep our zoo, which was one of the top 10 zoos in the country, upkeep a lot of the resources that we have, and now it's really, really hard to catch up. Okay, let's go this way. Roy, your campaign promised higher standards. You stated we are far too lax in what we're willing to accept in positions which care for taxpayers' assets, which handle millions of dollars. Why do you allow City Manager Bernal and his staff with inflated salaries continue to hire consultants to do their work? And this is this has been one of my questions and concerns out there was, we do have a salary of close to $1 million in the city manager's office, and we're still hiring $2.4 million in consultants per year. How is that feasible?
Well, and keep in mind, if you watch city commission meetings, you see there are several times where we've shot down proposals to contract someone for project management for fees that we think are exorbitant. And there are times where I question, and even recently with regard to the streetlights, where there's got to be an engineering firm brought in to study the bases. And I'm like, this is just for downtown. I'm like, wait a minute, we've got streetlights throughout our city. This is something we need to be aware of at all times. Why don't we have an engineer on staff who's capable of going out and inspecting those rather than having to award somebody a contract for, I don't remember if that was $200,000 or $400,000. It's beyond me. There's certain things that are the day-to-day operations of a city. Streetlights is one of them. Parks is one of them. Streets is one of them. How you're going to route traffic whenever streets are closed. Those are things that we should have people on staff capable of doing. Part of our problem in not having those is we're not paying competitive enough salaries. And I'm not talking about at the top, because at the top, I think that's one of our biggest problems as a city is the top. It doesn't seem like we have any problem paying top dollar for top management, but our frontline employees who haven't had a raise in years, and we're losing talent to other cities not because they're paying $1 or $2 more an hour, but I hear for similar positions, they're paying anywhere from $5 to $10 more an hour. And that's completely unacceptable to me. We're going through a compensation study right now, and I'm looking forward to the results, because I'm sure in previous years where they've done it, the findings are always we're deficient and we need to catch up. And I'm sure they put a Band-Aid on it in the past. I'm not going to sit quietly and allow it to be a Band-Aid this time. We need to make some decisions that will ensure we keep up throughout the years until the next study comes along. Not let's a one-time Band-Aid and in 8 years we'll do another study and see where we're at now. And as far as, yes, the higher standards, absolutely. One of the things I pushed for and was successful in was higher standards with regard to our ethics code. And that had to do with financial reporting. If you're going to be on a board which controls millions of dollars or applies the law to the rights of citizens and property owners, you have to disclose, because you could be making decisions that could be benefiting a business partner or yourself that the people don't know about. I'm getting resistance on that. If you guys would have seen my interaction with one of my fellow commissioners, either at the end of January, early February, where they're wanting to pull back some on the financial reporting standards. And the argument being made was that, well, some of the rich constituents want their privacy. And my response was, then they shouldn't have their hands on our money. Yeah. If you want to put your hands on the people's money, just like me as an elected official, if I want to be in a position of trust, of public trust, I have to fill out a financial disclosure. Same thing. If you're going to handle millions of dollars, or if you're going to apply the laws to people's rights, you need to disclose. That's my belief. And I fought for that. We've achieved that to a great extent, and I'm fighting to keep it as strict as possible.
And can you remind us when the meetings are scheduled and where we can see them?
Yes, they're the first and third Tuesday of every month, and they are usually, there's a link on the city's Facebook page and on the city's YouTube channel.
Okay.
And then I think if you look at the city website, the agenda's posted. You can also log in via WebEx directly to the meeting.
What times are the meetings at?
5 p.m.
Okay, thank you.
we had that conversation today, and I made mention that I hadn't seen that interaction, but I had definitely heard about it, and that was primarily one of the reasons why, when Mr. Santos mentioned the comment that Frankie made, I said, if I would have been on, which I was sometimes in the black, I would have made mention. Well, wait a minute, that's not exactly as factual as a statement as we'd liked it to be. Let's go down because I don't want to spend all night here, guys.
And some of the times when we've come to board appointments also, I've questioned some of the nominees from other commissioners, because it's important that we're not just putting somebody on a board because they're a good friend of ours, or they donated to our campaign, or they raised money or whatever, but because they're qualified for the position we're putting in, most especially if it's one of the big, powerful boards.
One of the concerns, and I always use this analogy, is that we sometimes want some of the blue ticket holders to be able to serve on a lot of committees and a lot of boards out there, and we felt, and I a lot of people felt that a lot of the blue ticket holders never get a chance to be a part of any city commission or any committee or any board out there, as to because these places are reserved for the orange ticket holders, and amongst them, they go from one committee to another committee to another committee to another committee. So I'm glad that y'all are looking at that.
Let me say two things on that topic, Erasmo, because you're absolutely right. The first thing I would say, and I've told this to constituents before, or when they've asked me, or they've told me, well, I apply all the time and I never get appointed. And I ask them, have you reached out to anyone on the commission? Because when I was a citizen, if I was applying for a board, when the vote was coming up, I reached out to every single member of the commission, introducing myself, telling them the position I was seeking, asking for their consideration, and saying, if you've got somebody more qualified, I'll respect that. But if you don't, I feel I'm qualified, I would do a good job, and here's why. And I think that's what helped me achieve that. As a commissioner, even before I was a commissioner, one of the things that disappointed me over time was I would see meetings where the list of applicants comes on the screen, and members of the commission look at it and say, I don't recognize any of those names, so let's table this. Me as a commissioner, when we get the packet and we get all the applications that are on file for that position, I look through them, starting first with District 3, but then I'll expand to other areas if I don't find someone that I think is qualified. And I look for very specific things. So I'll share this with the public. There's a couple of questions on there or one that talks about why you think you're suited for that board or what interests you in that position. I look to see what people put there. And I also look to see which boards they check off that they show interest in. Because if I see somebody that checked off every single board the city has, it's hard for me to take them seriously, because you can't tell me you're an expert in all these areas, and you may have an interest or be willing to serve in all these areas. But when I'm looking for somebody who's going to be a great asset in that position, I want somebody that says, my specialty is animals or children or special needs, whatever it is. Give me a couple of areas, but you can't say I qualify for everything. Put me on any board. That's tougher for me. But when I find people whose application catches my attention, if I don't know them personally, I reach out to them either via their email address or I call them. And I say, this is Commissioner De Los Santos. I read your application. I want to talk to you, get to know you a little bit, understand why you're interested in this position. And if I feel comfortable with them, I will appoint them when I've got the nomination.
Let me ask real quick. How often do these lists come out, and how are they available to the community?
Well, as far as the positions that are coming available, I know the city is trying to make appointments in December and I think June of each year. That doesn't always hold true. So I can't say that there's any regular cadence. I can say for sure, June, December, pay close attention. As the agendas get published, it'll show that there are board appointments coming up.
Okay.
But there are times where, and in June and December, you'll see like 10 different boards have appointments coming up. And in the packet that's online, you can see the list of every applicant that's put in for that position, and also usually what other boards they've applied for.
And the city usually does a great job in regards to having it on their website and announcing it on their social media page as well, especially when a big old chunk of individuals are going to be up for it. But with that said, I think, and I've always said that I think a lot of the commissioners out there need to help the city of Brownsville in that respects, because sometimes the different commissioners out there may have a bigger platform than the city of Brownsville, even as crazy as that may sound, and say, guys, hey, these positions are coming up or these positions are being available. Mr. Los Santos, you mentioned in regards to the DUI, what happened with the DUI, and I think you already answered that.
And that's okay. I don't mind touching on it again, just in case there was still any question about it. We finally went into what is called a pretrial diversion program. That was approved by the DA's office. I started paying the fees, I believe it was in October, and the program started around October 6th. I have online check-ins every month and quarterly face-to-face check-ins with my, not parole officer, probation officer. And so far, those are going very smooth. Random urine tests, and I had to do that the last time I had my face-to-face. I'm not allowed to have firearms, not allowed to have alcohol, not allowed to, I think those are the only things I'm not allowed to do. Have to take defensive driving, have to have an evaluation to have a medical professional determine if they think I'm an alcoholic or if I'm at risk of doing this again. I have 75 hours of community service I've got to perform, and I've got to attend during the first 6 months, 27 AA meetings.
Wow, all of that if you get a,
most of it.
You have to do all of that if you get a DWI?
A DUI, yeah.
I didn't know that.
This was my first offense of anything like this. And because this was just me in the accident, that's why it was not a felony. It was just a misdemeanor. And so first offense, misdemeanor, no one else injured, no property damage, nothing like that. That's why I think I had the opportunity. And I think the punishment's consistent with what many others get when they go through pretrial diversion for a similar charge.
Well,
I thought you just paid a fine.
I don't know anything about that.
Yeah, whatever. I thought you just paid a fine, and that was
It's not just a fine.
It was just like speaking.
Wow.
I had to watch a panel also that put on by Mothers Against Drunk Driving. There was another one, an individual who has passed away, unfortunately, already, but who was the victim of an accident caused by a drunk driver, and they were burned over their most of their body, and it talked about their life and the impact and things of that nature. So that's all part of the pretrial diversion I'm going through right now.
Yeah, I like another language. I have no idea what you're talking about.
Whatever. Did you have to do all of that too?
Yes.
I didn't know that.
Matt,
I thought you paid a fine and you got put on the newspaper.
Oh, crazy! I mean, and you go through these different little classes. You're going like, "What the hell am I doing here? I'm not an alcoholic. I just,
Yeah.
I drink."
And I'm not saying I never drank because I'm known. College years, I drank plenty.
A lot.
First few years of as a professional on the weekends, I drank plenty.
Mom?
Huh?
Mom, are you listening?
No one tell my mom again.
No.
And I say that all the time. Thank God cell phones and cameras were not as readily available because I was a knucklehead many a time. But
let me tell you, I'm so grateful that there was no cell phones.
Yeah, no kidding.
No, recording devices back then when I was in my 20s.
Yeah.
What was Daniel, a salaried employee? Did Daniel ever get any raises or annual bonuses? And I think this is
important note. The employees at the Children's Museum, they're not city employees. That's not City of Brownsville. The Children's Museum is a nonprofit corporation. It has its own board of directors. It is completely independent from the City of Brownsville. There's no city emails for those employees or anything like that. My understanding is that he was on hourly wage. I don't know. I can't speak to whether or not he got raises or bonuses, especially after having been fired and brought back on. I don't know that he would have qualified or was around long enough consistently between termination and rehiring that he would have been eligible for a raise or a bonus. But again, I can't speak to that because I'm not involved with the administration or operation of the Children's Museum in any way.
Yeah, and I think, again, to a lot of the people out there, guys, a lot of these questions need to be answered. If you have these concerns, direct them to the Children's Museum. They do have the board, and I did make mention. I spoke with the board members there at the function that we were at on Tuesday. And they shared a lot of the information. I'm very, very glad that we've had those conversations. They're great conversations to have. So anyone out there and I shared this information that same Tuesday, guys. That they are going to look into it, and any concerns dealing with the employment of Mr. Mostad need to be directed by the Children's Museum. And one of the things that I shared with the Children's Museum directors the board was, guys, please just share something out there so people will stop going on these little tandems. Did you recommend to Mostad you and his mother sit on the MIDI board?
So no, I did not recommend him for the job. Their first hiring, last hiring. And his mother and I do not sit on the board together. His mother is on staff. She is the executive director and CEO. She's not a board member. I'm a board member.
That's good. Do you recommend Brian Martinez to the?
Did you recommend?
Did you recommend Brian Martinez to the Camille? What makes you qualified to take an important financial decision for the Camille credentials?
So first, did I recommend Brian Martinez? Yes, I did. What makes me qualified? One, this was a recommendation that then the board took as under advisement because there were bids that came in for the work that needed to be done. The board of directors unanimously voted to engage him for the social media work, and they unanimously voted to bring in another firm to handle the revision of the website. What makes me qualified? One, I was president of the board at the time. Two, I've served as president and CEO of several boards, especially when it comes to nonprofit corporations. And when I was recruited for the Camille board, it was specifically because the focus was very much, it was a very theater-centric board. And it seemed like the administration side was being neglected. And I can say that even when Chris Eichner, who was our executive artistic director before, and it was very unfortunate. It was a tough decision when we had to let him go, but it was at the point, because of the pandemic, the revenue streams dried up. And based on the employment contract he was under, there was not enough money to be able to pay him, I think, beyond 90 days at that time. And we sat down with Chris and spoke to him, and he was very gracious, very understanding, because he could have said, no, I've got a contract, you're going to pay me no matter what. He was not like that. He was very understanding. And in talking to him, one of the things he specifically said was, when Camille gets to the point where you're reopening and are ready to start hiring staff again, he says, I recommend the first position you hire is office. He says, you need someone with that expertise watching that side of the business, because we've got an abundance of talent on that board when it comes to the theater and the stage and acting. But it was the business side that was getting neglected. And so as far as mine, 22 years with AT&T and as a senior manager, Sombrero Festival, chief executive officer, chairman of the board, and president for several years. I mean, I could rattle off the different boards I've served on, but I've been doing nonprofit work for over 2 decades now.
Okay, Roy, talk about the new road that opened by the Brownsville port for trucks. Is it open for everyone to travel on?
I believe so, but it's tantamount to, if you're going to drive into the port of Brownsville, you've got the little booths. You'll have to go through the guards, and they'll check to see what's your business here, because that road is specifically for truck traffic. And again, our ports of entry are very sensitive areas because they could easily be terror targets. So they absolutely watch who goes in and out of there and work to ensure that it's for a legitimate purpose. The important thing to note about this road, this is just the very first section of what will eventually be the East Loop. And that will help route traffic, truck traffic, directly from the port of Brownsville to the bridge at Los Tomates without having to go down Boca Chica, International Boulevard, 14th Street. So that should alleviate a lot of the traffic problems we have today. And of course, those trucks, because of their weight, do a lot of damage to the roads. The East Loop is being built with the high load truck traffic in mind. So it should be better equipped. It's going to be several years. And it's a partnership. I know the TxDOT is part of it. The county is part of it. The city's committed. I believe we just approved $3 million towards the East Loop project. I know Commissioner Golonsky is a big advocate for it because it runs through her district. So ultimately, it's going to be a good thing. It's way overdue, but it's good to see this first stretch opening up. And also think about from the perspective of the windmill blades that are coming to the port of Brownsville. If things are being shipped in and out for SpaceX, now it's a direct shot versus having to come back into town and go out down Boca Chica.
God, yes.
We have a lot of those windmill blades coming in, don't we? Because our backyard overlooks 511, and we can see when they're driving in.
Yeah.
I mean, lately, I've been seeing quite a few of those trucks coming in. May I ask real quick, when is your term over? How long is your term? Just because he said this is going to go on for the next few years. So I'm wondering, like, how much involved he's going to be while it's coming through. I'm not being rude. Don't look at me like that.
This is a great question.
Huh?
You started.
This is a great question.
But I want to know how much longer is he going to be involved? Because I'm very impressed with Mr. De Los Santos so far. So that's why I'm wondering, because you came in who's the other commissioner that came in?
Pedro Cardenas. We both came in.
That's another one we never hear from, and I would love to have him on the show too, because we don't hear from you guys and we want to. But go on, sorry.
So I was elected, the general election was May 1st, and I was in a runoff. So I was elected June 19th, sworn in June 29th. But it's a 4-year term, so until 2025.
Okay.
And it'll depend on if when I'm up for reelection, whether I'm running unopposed or if I've got one opponent or multiple opponents. It could be the same thing where there's a general election and my term is over if somebody else beats me right then and there, or that it could go to a runoff and that extends it even further into June. But it's a 4-year term, and I'll go into this topic because it's a perfect segue. Or I can run for the second term, and I'm limited to 2 terms as a commissioner right now.
Is there term limits?
There are term limits now. Those were just approved by the voters May 1st of 2021. And this is something where I'm not doing any work yet to try and overturn that, which that would be against the will of the voters because the voters overwhelmingly approve this. But I believe firmly term limits are bad at the local level. I think the citizens should get to make the choice for several reasons. I think when it comes to our politicians in Washington and our politicians in Austin, if we don't see them here in the district they represent on a day-to-day basis, that's where we have problems, because they're up there getting wined and dined by lobbyists, special interests, cutting deals with colleagues, as opposed to facing their constituents every day, seeing the problems firsthand, and answering to their constituents every day. So I think term limits is something that should absolutely be considered at the state and federal level. Locally, we're here. We see our constituents every day, and we've seen it before where, like with Commissioner Tetcher, who won first as a write-in candidate. And in her last race, when she ran for re-election, she was facing a former mayor and a former school board president and defeated them both without a runoff. If that doesn't tell you this is what the people want, what does? So the other side of the coin with this is that I've had to fight corruption in different areas and with different organizations. And when it's years old, when it's deep rooted and embedded, that's not something you can fix overnight. And I can tell you, there are times where it's taken me years, up to 6 years, to really start to make a difference. But the biggest part of being able to have made that difference where I did was the fact that those people realized this guy's not going away. And it was not going to change. We were absolutely going to see this through. That's not the case in Brownsville. If there are people out there who are corrupt that don't want someone like me coming in and shaking things up, they can tell themselves, he's only got a couple of years left. We just have to wait him out. And then we're back in control again. That's the problem with term limits, in my opinion, is we get too few stellar public servants. And with term limits now, when you find one, you're very limited on what they can and can't do. So
and I've always been for term limits, but from an educator standpoint, I can absolutely see what you're saying, because there are times when teachers were like, well, just wait this principal out and they'll move them around and things will change.
And
so I
can
see that point of view.
We see Congress is like, just wait 2 years and we'll take control of the House or the Senate, or the president's got 2 years left. Just vote no on everything he wants. And when the new president comes in, we'll do it our way. Now, that's not how the country was founded. That's not how we became the greatest nation in the world. We did it by compromise and working together and coming together as a country when things were tough in the world. And now it's just each side fighting one another and who can one up one another the most. And I know just recently with the Supreme Court nominations, and I heard people saying, well, no, because when the right had the option, they put somebody on there who's as far right as they could get. So now we should put somebody on there who's as far left as we can get. No, that's wrong. 2 wrongs do not make a right. We need somebody who's going to represent the country well. And to me, that's somebody who's usually in the middle, who can see both sides and just look at what's fair, not for my party, but for our country.
What's constitutional? That's all you could ask. And
exactly,
that was one of my concerns. Look, I kind of like the new the nominee for Supreme Court, Miss Brown.
I do. I like her.
I like her qualifications, but that's what I want. I don't. But
I was a fan of Childs also.
Where Biden screwed up was in regards to, well, it's got to be a black woman. We're like, hold on, give me the most qualified. I don't care. Brown.
What bothers me is the possibility of another Supreme Court justice being confirmed with just 50 or 51 votes.
Yeah,
I think we had some of our greatest courts when it was 60 votes or more. And that's how they got confirmed, because they were recognized for their record. And to this day, that's one of my biggest points of contention with Congress previously and with Donald Trump, even though he was just the candidate at the time. But Merrick Garland, when Merrick Garland was nominated by Barack Obama, there should have been a vote. Republicans had the majority, so they could have voted no if he was not qualified.
No.
But to say you don't even get to vote, to say my representatives, my senators don't even get to vote, that's not democracy, in my opinion.
I agree. And I was completely against that. You know, I want vote up or down, but just
Yes,
just go through the process, man.
absolutely.
Let's go. Was Daniel a salaried employee of the Children's Museum?
You did that one.
No, he did that one. Yes, we already answered that. Also need a Barnes and Noble here. Yes, and congratulations to Bull.
Yes.
I love Gilbert.
And I know someone said P.F. Chang's. I know P.F. Chang's has been looking at Brownsville. I don't know how close they are to possibly doing something here, but
That's
location
good to
is
know.
key.
I love P.F. Chang's. I love their appetizer, that lettuce wrap. It's amazing.
Anything else different? Yes.
Why would the city CMB lie about Daniel's position within the museum? I don't know that they have. Was Daniel only a front desk clerk? Will he dress in costumes and play with children? Was he the pavilion manager? I shared this conversation with Mr. Santos. I don't give a rat's behind if he's dressed in a dress. I don't care if he's dressed it with a wig. I still, it really irks my chain for individuals to want to make that an issue.
Oh, but I don't even read this as an issue. I thought they meant like, did he dress up in costume so that people didn't know who he was? So you know what I mean? Like, did he dress up as
and I think I
Elmo?
agree with you, Maggie, on the interpretation of that. One, I don't think the museum lied. I have not heard them say this was his position and something was proven differently. I know there was a news story where the banner across the screen gave him a title, but my understanding was that he was a staffer. I don't know that there's a more formal title than that that he ever had. I've never heard that, not from anyone at the museum, to say he was a manager or was management or anything like that.
I think that was a Channel 4 News that added.
I think so.
Yeah. Why hasn't AT&T finished extending their fiber optic cables into subdivisions?
That's above my pay grade. I wish I could tell you. I'm on the retail store and cell phone side of the business.
I'm going like, I don't even understand that question. I got my undergraduate degree in 4 years. I'm surprised you didn't get it in 2 years, bro. This guy's the smartest guy.
Good for you, David. I still tell people that my biggest regret is not finishing my undergrad degree in my 20s and not getting my law degree in my 20s.
Bottom line isn't with education is you never are told to go back. 100%.
Amen.
So good evening. Good evening. This is how far behind we are in the comments.
Wow.
That's okay.
Now, good evening, everyone. To Mr. Santos, what can the city do to maintain the grass cut in the expressways? Why can't we be proactive and do like McAllen, hire a company, and then get reimbursed by TxDOT?
That's not actually how it happens. This is something we've absolutely looked at, and I think I've even written a memo to the city manager on it. I know I've had the discussion, but the Midi Cultural District was asking about this for years, is why can't our grass be cut like other cities up the valley? Those cities pay for it. They're not reimbursed by TxDOT. They pay TxDOT for extra mowing cycles.
I will disagree with you. And I'll tell you why. Because I actually had this conversation with a director of TxDOT in one of the Brownsville days up at the Capitol.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe something that you can look into, because the Brownsville, the director of TxDOT at that time, he made mention publicly in front of a lot of the folks there at Leadership Brownsville that the reason that McAllen's and other cities' grass gets cut is because they do have a contract with the city where they cut their own grass and then TxDOT reimburse them. So it might be something to look at, because a lot of time, and I made sure that I posted it back then. And this is like, again, maybe 4 years ago. Like, I honestly can't even remember. I don't even remember what I had for breakfast this morning.
The only scenario I could imagine would be if TxDOT is agreeing to allow the city to bring in their own contractor. And if TxDOT would have mowed 4 times a year, then they may reimburse them for 4 cuts. But if that city is wanting the grass cut 8 times a year, 12 times a year, I don't think TxDOT is paying them for as much as they want. TxDOT is paying for whatever TxDOT would normally do, but the city is footing the bill for the rest. So this becomes a budget issue. Is Brownsville willing to pay the thousands of dollars for extra mowing cycles?
But I think one of the things is, or at least let's get that. I think part of the concern was, you drive into McAllen and it's like day and night sometimes at that time. And our question directly was to them. And again, Leadership Brownsville was there with us at that same little workshop that they had. And we, everyone was just like waiting for the answer. And the answer was that, they do get, and you might be 100% right in regards to, hey, we're going to go out there, cut it 4 times a year. It's going to cost us give it a number, $1,000 each time. Here's $4,000. Y'all take care of it the rest of the year.
Right.
That's great. Maybe we could get that. So
that's something I'll look into. And I will say that on the idea of additional mowing cycles, I have spoken to officials at the county, and the county is willing to consider partnering with the city so that the city doesn't have to foot the entire bill, because of course the county benefits as well. So that's something that's still actively being discussed. But I'll look at that other option as well.
Mr. Santos, need advice. When I bought my iPhone, I just realized that AT&T did not install a 5G chip. What can I ask AT&T to make up for the extra money I've paid over a year?
What was I get the question, I think, but I'm not clear. What was the extra money being paid for?
He was paying. I guess I have AT&T, so I know. Paying for, I guess, the 5G, but never got 5G.
If that's the case, reach out to me. You can go to my website, voteforroy.com, the number 4, and my email address and cell numbers on there. Text is preferred because I keep incredibly busy throughout the day with my real job. But that's something I can absolutely put in a service request and an escalation for, to have that looked at. And if there was something that we failed to do and you've been paying for a service that you're not getting, then you're entitled to have that reviewed and possibly be compensated for that.
Mr. Santos, what do you plan to achieve if elected, and how do you plan to do it? With see many problems in the city, starting off with all corruption and abuse of power at city level. He's already elected.
Yeah, maybe something else.
But I'll tell you what, because I do remember seeing that question. There was another question similar to this about, okay, you said all these things, higher standards and everything, but what have you actually accomplished so far? So just on those topics, some of the biggest, the ethics code, that was very, very important to me, because these are about the people in positions controlling taxpayers' monies and citizens' rights. So raising the standards of the ethics code, questioning when people are being nominated to be put on boards to ensure that they're qualified. One of the things, flooding and drainage, which we've got the biggest investment going into flooding and drainage in the city's history, ongoing. And I've got meetings coming up soon with planning and redevelopment, because I've told them I want maps that any citizen just looking at it understands where the impacts are, what's coming, what the impacts mean to the citizen. Because they send me maps and I look at them like I have no idea what the hell I'm looking at. And if I don't get it, I can't imagine every citizen gets it either. So I want this, like that movie, explain it to me like I'm a 3-year-old. Tell me so that I can understand. That's what I'm working towards, to get that for the citizens. And I've told them, these are my key areas. One is Tradition Circle, because it's one of the worst flooding areas in my district. So I've let planning and redevelopment know that when we have this meeting, these are the things I want to see. These are the areas I'm specifically going to ask about. Tradition Circle was one of them. Morrison, both in my district and in Commissioner Cardenas' district, there's a couple of areas on Morrison that flood horribly. And what bothered me the most, that first flood after I was elected, I went through there and realized afterwards I should not have driven through that water, because it was coming over the hood of my expedition. The next day when I went out there after the waters had receded, what concerned me the most was you could see the tire tracks where people were driving onto the medians and off to the shoulder to get away from the deeper water. Well, that's where there's a big drainage ditch right there. And some of these tire tracks were within just a few feet of that drainage ditch. And imagine if somebody had gone a little too far over and gone in there, somebody would have lost their life. Yeah. So these are big, big concerns of mine. That's one of the big things I'm looking at. One of the things I'm most proud of, and we're not there 100% yet, turning GBIC back over to the people. It was an all commission board when I was elected, and I was the first commissioner to resign from GBIC to start the process of putting citizens back on that board. We've got 3 citizens on there now, and there should be another one coming up any day now. But the resolution was passed by the commission, 2 commissioners rolling off every 90 days until it's back to a citizen board.
Good.
Awesome.
Those are some of the accomplishments so far.
All right, I accept.
And I'm not saying that's everything. I'm saying those are some of the bigger items.
All right, I accept.
I mean, I know new bus shelters have gone in. I'm not taking credit for any of those bus shelters. I'm just saying they've started to go in. I know Southmost was the area they started in. I can't say that I did anything to make that happen. I think that was already in the works because of the work of my predecessors and some of my colleagues who are already on the commission. I'm glad to see that that's happening.
Me too.
Is there a chance of those getting some kind of air system blowing, not necessarily air conditioner, but, and I've seen it. I've seen them in LA where it's sun powered fan systems. We need it. We need it in Brownsville.
I know we've talked about it where we'd like to see solar power to where you've even got the possibility of like charging cell phones while you're waiting for the bus.
That's available already. It seems like Erasmo's the one who pointed that out. But
Locally?
yes, isn't it Erasmo?
What?
They've got solar powered charging stations
At bus stops?
Well, I
Brownsville?
don't know if they're short, but they do have the little plugs in there and stuff. I think for charger phones.
In Brownsville bus stops.
Yeah, they're kind of cool.
I've never seen that. I'll have to check it out.
Yeah.
Cool.
I'm sure that I passed by every day. It's amazing. It's a great thing. Unless you know, that's where they put out their little joints or something. But it's she complained again.
Yes,
that a
but
kitty?
that wants to be fed.
All those people on YouTube, like the damn page, guys.
Is that a kitty?
Yeah.
Oh, I love kitties.
Say that about
I have a kitty. I have a blind kitty. He's blind and he's positive for feline HIV.
I'm sorry.
I love
We've
cats.
got two very
Hold on.
obnoxious ones who demand to be fed every 20 minutes.
Did you fill out the application for the Camille Theater?
I'm assuming that's the application for hot tax monies. Yes, I did. Yes, I did, because when I took over as president of the board, one of the things that was reported to me early on was that the checks from the city have stopped. We don't know what's going on. And so when I looked into it, I found out that the city was not receiving a quarterly report, which is part of the contract that Camille needed to turn in quarterly reports. I did not take on the reporting myself, as has been reported. What I did was I asked the treasurer, do you have the financial report for this quarter? P&L, whatever it is, send me the financial report, and I hit forward, send it to the city of Brownsville. I didn't do any messing with the numbers. I was not the treasurer. I was not the banker. I was not the accountant. All I did was make sure they got from the treasury to the city, because that was part of the requirements. And once that happened, the checks started coming. Now, what was in the reports, that's based on what the financial people put in those reports. And did I have my opinion on whether or not we had qualified expenses? Yes, I had my opinion. And just like when the audit committee reviewed the reports, the audit committee had their opinion, and it seems like our opinions were in sync. Did I participate in the audit? Yes, I did.
Good. Let's go.
Because it was important for me to participate in that audit. I didn't participate in the ARP funding because I wanted to let staff handle that. And I will say also in the audit, I participated in the first part, but especially when it came to Camille's appeal, I've taken more of a back seat, and I've told staff, everybody on the committee, I said, do not look at me as a commissioner when I'm in here for the appeal for Camille Playhouse, because I was board president at the time that a lot of this took place. I said, I'm just here to ensure that all the facts are accurate.
Brian's company Influx gets any of that ad money from the city from those grants?
Not ad money, but some of the hot tax money was used to pay the fees to Influx. Yes.
I think that I think I saw Influx is a company that is.
I think it's more of a DBA.
Huh?
I think it's more of a DBA. I don't think it's incorporated. I think it's just a DBA.
DBA, which belongs in part to Mr. Martinez.
Completely. That's one of his. Yeah, that's what he does. Marketing.
So was he working for? Again, I'm assuming that
That's
this
okay.
is.
Go ahead.
I'm assuming that this has to do with the Camille Playhouse.
Yes.
Was he working with the Camille Playhouse when his company was doing a DBA for the Camille Playhouse?
Well, it was just Influx. Brian Martinez as Influx Marketing was contracted by the board of Camille Playhouse to do social media marketing for a 4-month period.
But not working for Camille Playhouse, just contract work.
Contract, yeah.
Mr. Santos, thank you for joining the show tonight, knowing that you would be asked tough questions. Good share of info.
Always.
I thought you were running again, but the questions so apply. Yes, they do. what changes to plan to do now? What can we see in the upcoming years for?
Well, and that the key is always to remember I am one of seven. And nothing chaps my ass more than people telling me you have to learn to count to four. And what they mean is you have to play the game and make sure you've got four votes. I don't believe in that, and I will never do that. What I believe is I'm not going to lobby my fellow commissioners outside of public view. I'm not going to be having phone calls and make sure I keep it under quorum so that we can plan something behind the scenes. I don't believe in that. I believe in doing my homework when I get that packet, making sure I know as much as I need to before voting on something, and knowing which questions need to be asked. And the way I would with any other issue, when it's put before me, if it's good for the city and if it makes sense, I'll support it. If it's bad, I won't. And I would hope that the majority of my colleagues will do the same. That's not always the case, because we've had some pretty intense discussions at the commission level. Some of them were big time around employee benefits for retirees. And that's something that should be coming back up in this month, because that was the agreement, is that come back, we're going to look at it again, because we didn't have the data that I had been looking for. I didn't feel I could make an educated decision on it at the time because my questions had not been answered. I've been assured that I will have that information when it comes up again.
Good. How much did FBI informant Moreno charge you for his services? Did you get a discount since you were ex-prod for some of his cheap films?
Oh, I wish I'd gotten a discount. And I can tell you that the film that I was a part of was not one of the cheap ones. In fact, when you make a short film, usually about $5,000 is something what you should be able to shoot it for. The one we did, we ended up shooting on film. It wasn't digital. So it cost us over $40,000 to shoot that movie. And I'm very proud of the work. There's still work that we want to do to finish the full-length feature script and try and shop that around. But no, I did not get a discount. His going rate is $5,000 a month for his consulting, plus any ads, anything else that gets done. And he's very good about, if you've got your own suppliers that can get you a better price than any of these individual things, we'll go with the lowest bid, whatever you want to do. But yeah, the services he provides, his database, his network, and his work and creativity, $5,000 a month.
Yeah, he does not give discounts. I know that for a fact.
The only thing I can say I've gotten, and I don't know that I'm the only one who's gotten it, is he was willing to let me make payments as we went along versus having to plop down $40,000 right at the beginning.
It's a lot of money. The zoo, the Camille, and the museums make Brownsville attractive to people who want to visit and invest in our city. I agree 1,000%. 1,000%. They are what made Brownsville the gem of the valley here in the then day. Thank you, Commissioner Santos, for coming on and being the only commissioner trying to answer the public's questions.
Absolutely.
And I'll say I'm sorry it took me this long to come on this show, but I'm very glad that I did. But I'm always available, and there's never a topic that is off limits. When you guys have me on, whatever it is.
Yeah, one of the things that we had that conversation. Well, not really, but and I will say we didn't have the conversation. Santos did not say this is off limits. She's appreciated, because I've had other people say, like, let's avoid this. Biology field technician at UNI. I was wondering if the city would be open for an opportunity to collaborate with the Wildlife Society for educational purposes in schools.
I'd like to learn more about it. I don't know if the city's the right partner, if the school district.
Wouldn't that be the school district?
Yeah,
possibly. But I'd love to learn more.
But with that said, let me say that, and Mr. Boop, you could contact the commissioner, or you could contact the superintendent's office. But I do know that one of the things that a former commissioner.
While you're thinking, I'm going to refill my coffee. I can still hear you. I'm just going a few feet away.
Former Commissioner Ben Neese, was interested in doing an aviary type of bird watching type of stuff down here, which I think is wonderful. Again, it's not my cup of tea. I've tried that bird watching crap. Just don't get off to it. My attorney likes, watching birds, and that's cool. I love her. I just don't get off to it. But I know for a fact that there's a lot of people out there that like to look at birds.
Aside from sable palm, is that what they're asking for?
Yeah, I'm sure.
Or Ben Neese, is that what he wanted? Something aside from sable palm?
He wanted something over here by Fort Brown, I think, something like that. I don't know. But again, I would contact the school district and see what they have to say. maybe some work with. I know that one of the things that when I get all these posts, different posts up there, one of the things that happens a lot is a lot of times we'll have like a injured bird and stuff out there, and I know that the zoo helps out in regards to picking up birds. Other people as well. But yeah, man, talk to the district, and I'm sure the district will give some input, and reach out to the zoo. Maybe they'll be interested in it as well.
Isn't there, and let me just throw this out there, isn't there something that could be done with Starlab and Elon Musk to offset whatever it is that they're doing with the rockets and the environment out there?
Absolutely. I can tell you I've had some discussions with some folks at SpaceX, and they're very interested in supporting the ecosystem locally in any way they can. I know one of the things they specifically talked about, because they had been through the freeze and the sea turtles, is using some of the drone technology to be able to help spot those nests on the beaches without having to physically go look, but to be able to know, pinpoint, these are where there are nests based on whatever the technology and the IT lets them see. I don't know if it's infrared or sonar or what it is. I'm not a techie guy, but I know SpaceX is very interested in being a positive partner for the ecosystem where they can.
That's good to know, because I didn't realize that they would be willing to work, put in monies or put in time and effort into helping our environment in addition.
Yeah, and in fact, one of the other things I remember of that conversation was, I know they were working on a big electrical main line to be able to supply some of their power needs out there. And I think that's already in progress if it hasn't been completed already. But one of the things they mentioned was with the battery technology they have, being able to store power out there at a level where in the future, if we ever had outages like that again, the possibility of those batteries being able to backfeed electrical to our grid and help keep some of our more essential systems going in some type of catastrophic event like that.
Cool.
Great.
If those jelly donuts, they call me in the middle of the night, Hollywood, come and get me some.
I love that.
Wouldn't Roy's emails to Brian be public? Or why would we care if Brian's emails are public because he is not a city employee? Roy's emails to Brian are public. That is an excuse.
No, that's not an excuse, because the emails that Mr. Martinez does business with aren't just to me. Sometimes he's dealing with different city departments. Sometimes he's dealing with constituents on issues, because like I said, one man can't do it all. There are things that I need to delegate. And so there are times I'm like, work on X, Y, and Z for me. And he's doing that business and will come back to me with a report or an update on what that is. So yes, he's absolutely engaging city departments, and he's doing it from that city email address. And sometimes it's third parties outside the city that he's engaging with because it's a citizen, a constituent, a business, whatever it is. So no, that's not an excuse. That's 100% the truth.
What's up, Erasmo? How are you? Hope you're okay, man. I'm doing good. Love you. Hope you're doing okay too, bro. How many other employees does he have? COS means managing positions. It's all fluff, facade.
A facade to lie to the public. And yeah, this is one of those people that just wants to spread lies and hate. That's ridiculous. Chief of staff does not imply that every single person that works for me or with me is paid. And like I said, I've got several people, and I can tell you, Michelle Garcia, Angel Rodriguez, JD De Leon, Jerry Danache. These are all people who work with me and keep me informed on things going on throughout the city. And a lot of times I'm not accessible, and they go through Brian to get a hold of me. They go through Brian to put things on my calendar, or they work directly with Brian to get things done. So he is absolutely the chief of staff for the people that work for me as commissioner, whether they're paid or not. So no, it's not fluff. No, it's not a facade. And no, it's not a lie. That you can't handle the truth, that's your problem.
But it makes sense. Stop it. And it makes sense because as a professional, being a librarian, I can always do a much better job if I have someone with me to help me, assist me. And I've had years where I didn't have a library aide, and I've had years where I've had a library aide, and I can get so much more done, and I can provide so much better services as a librarian. And librarians across the district, we say it, we feel it when we lose our library aide, and we feel the difference also when we do have one. We can provide better services because we can't do it all by ourselves. So the information you're giving us, as long as we know, is what I want to know. As long as you're being transparent and communicating, that serves me better and serves the city better.
did he vacate his seats? And I'm going to think that this question is in regards to the different boards and committees that you served on.
Me or Mr. Martinez?
Did he vacate his seats?
When I got elected, I resigned from the board of Camille, from the board of adjustment, and I'm pretty sure there was one more. I don't remember what the third one was. I feel like I resigned from 3. The ones I stayed on were Sombrero Festival, the Texas Southmost College Foundation, and the MIDI Foundation. But I could have sworn there was a third one. I'd have to go back and look.
Mr. Brian Martinez is a top-notch individual, a real asset. I've known Mr. Martinez for a while now, and again, cool cat.
And on the topic of Mr. Martinez, with regard to his seats, he serves on the LGBTQ task force and on the board of the animal shelter. And no, he did not resign those seats. There's no requirement that he do so because he's not a city employee. And in fact, being on those boards makes him that much more valuable because he's able to keep me informed about things going on in those areas.
Do you have to be LGBTQ? I don't even know what I said, but thank you, Chuck. Do you have to be, or can you just be an ally or friend to be part of the LGBTQ committee?
You can just be an ally. Anyone, any citizen can absolutely apply for that position.
How many positions are on the board?
There are 7 because each member of the city commission gets 1 appointment to that. So there's 7 members of the LGBTQ task force.
Okay. And that's available to just anybody, city
resident,
okay.
Any resident of Brownsville.
Okay.
It is very tempting to leave Brownsville, which is highly encouraged, but I don't want BTX to be a city where you have to leave to experience opportunities. To each their own. Maggie makes a point. That's amazing.
Stop it.
We want to hear about Molstad.
What do you want to hear?
People are leaving.
What's the question about Molstad that we have not answered?
Let me say this, folks. I don't give a rat's behind if we've got 3 people on here, if we've got 140 people on here. I don't care. The information that is being shared is information that we did not have before.
Mm-hmm.
So, guys, again, the Commissioner Santos said that he'll answer any questions out there. We're not skipping any questions. We're not reserved. Right. Ask questions.
Mm-hmm. Don't
go out there throwing little jabs here because it doesn't serve any purpose, guys. It doesn't. I mean, Maggie is right. And I think someone mentioned it. It's the first city official that's willing to answer your damn questions.
Yeah.
Guys, please, man.
And can we also quit fixating on some of the stuff that's already been answered? There used to be a saying, I remember a skateboarder walking up, seeing an accident, saying, acknowledge, move on.
Yeah.
So, and that's one of the things that I like is you're answering our questions. Okay, let's acknowledge we've gotten the information we want. Let's move on to something else.
Well, and let me throw in, because we've talked about the MIDI Foundation, MIDI Cultural District, City of Brownsville, and how Children's Museum is completely separate. I do want to make sure we paint a clear picture on the difference between the MIDI Foundation, which is an Austin-based foundation, and the MIDI Cultural District. These are 2 completely separate entities. The MIDI Cultural District was created by the City Commission, and it was named the MIDI Cultural District because the MIDI Foundation, which was started by Roy F. Mitty and his wife, Joanne Cole Mitty. Roy was a native of Brownsville. He went on to make millions in the insurance industry, and he was living in Austin. His corporation was based in Austin. He started the MIDI Foundation in 1994. The monies that the MIDI Foundation spends anywhere in Texas, and especially here in Brownsville, those monies come from revenues generated by the investments of the MIDI Foundation. So the millions that Roy and Joanne put in to create this foundation, that gets invested. And with the monies that come out of that, so much has to be spent by law. It falls under the Attorney General's office. So much has to be given away as part of the mission of this charitable foundation. So when people talk about, well, the MIDI Foundation's doing this, the MIDI Foundation's doing that, and they're spending taxpayer money, the MIDI Foundation doesn't solicit donations, does not accept donations. It works exclusively on the revenues generated from Roy and Joanne's initial investment. And it's only spent for the purpose, in this case, for the people of Brownsville. The things that they're building, such as the parking lots, which will have meters that will generate revenues, those revenues will go to the Midi Cultural District locally. They're working on helping the Midi Cultural District become a self-sustaining organization. And that board, the Midi Cultural District board, the local one, was made up of the nonprofits and entities and stakeholders within the boundaries of the Midi Cultural District. So I'd say 90%. I know the Midi Foundation has one seat on that board. Everything else is local. That's what happens.
I'll ask this because you mentioned that there is a difference in regards to the foundation and the Midi Cultural District, which is
Yes.
cool. Do the Midis, the individuals that are part of the family who serve on the board, they receive a salary? Has their salary exponentially been increased by huge percentages in the past 5 years?
No, as far as for the seats they hold on the board, no, I can tell you as a board member, and I think our board fees are part of our filings to the IRS each year. But I think my compensation as a board member is about $14,000 to $15,000 a year. I know the treasurer, the secretary, and the president may get a little more than that, but I'm not aware of anybody making even $20,000 a year as far as in their capacity as a member of the board of directors or an officer of the board.
I need that job.
Now, staff is completely different. Staff, they get their salaries for the work that they do. But yeah, the board members, absolutely not. We just get fees, and that's in consideration of the time we put in. And I'm very proud. This is a very diverse board. We've got folks from Austin. We've got folks from Louisiana. We've had folks from California. We've got a doctor from, I believe, Montana. But it's a well-rounded group of people that the Midi family has come in contact with over the years, and they felt they would be valuable assets to this foundation board. And even though when they shift from, okay, well, now we're shifting from Austin to spending in Brownsville, they're not getting rid of the board members who aren't from here and reconstituting it. No, they've kept these individuals long-term, and they're the balance. It's a family foundation, so the family members have seats on the board that are permanent. And I know that the youngest member of the family, once she turns 18, will have the option of joining the board as well. But it's well-rounded, very, very business-savvy people. A minister from Austin, so very religious people. It's a great board. I've been very, very pleased with everything I've seen, and I'm very proud to be the only Brownsville native who's serving on this board right now.
Is there a website? Do they have a website that we can go and check on the About Us section so we can see who's on the board?
It is midifoundation.org.
Okay. I was going to say, Mr. Boop, so are Longhorns, and so are Dallas Cowboy fans, and so are Texans fans. Yeah, it's all there.
So, Ray, can you pay your child support?
If I have children, I'm not aware of it.
And
oh yeah, get ready for these fake accounts.
I had that one time. I had that someone show up to my parents' office and bring over a 15-year-old. They said, "Hey, this is your grandkids. This belongs to Erasmo." I'm going like, "Yeah, I'm sure that probably not, but I'm not.
Yeah.
I'm not too sure because of my 20s."
What was it again?
Midifoundation.org.
Give me a chance to open up a new tab and switch over.
It's called Google search, Maggie.
I need to get the tab open.
Oh, here, let me do this. I can put it in. We have a chat, don't we?
Yeah, private chat. There's 3 people here, and one person here has a doctor's degree.
And it's not him.
And it's not me.
There you go. I just put it in our chat, Maggie.
Okay, thank you.
Hello, and Erasmo Commissioner. Yeah, I'm back finally. See, people in Brownsville have more resources to advocate for themselves compared to back then, but choose not to. 100%. And also for mayor next year. I live in DFW, and we travel the country a lot. And my daughter and me want to live in Brownsville. It's a great place that, unfortunately, people that live there don't appreciate.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Well, but let me say, Chuck, and everybody sees this because they're like, no, people are so negative and they just attack and they tell lies and they do this and they do that. Yes, there's a lot of that. And a lot of times the negative people talk louder than anybody else. But there are people out there who are good and who want to see the city do better and will absolutely praise So don't lose hope just because you see more of the negative than the positive.
Yeah. Was he fired twice and allowed to come back?
I'm thinking
No.
this comment was way from before.
Probably. He was fired once and
Once.
came back.
What is the status of the PUB audit? That's a good question.
The last I heard, and I think this comment was from Commissioner John Cowan because he is on the Audit and Oversight Committee, is that we're expecting that in the next couple of months, possibly May.
May. That's what I
And
heard.
that's something, because I know people are like, oh, they've been doing this audit forever. No. There was an audit that was going on by the city auditor. The city auditor is no longer with the city. So there is a third-party firm that was brought in. That's something that has occurred since I took office. And yeah, we're at the point where in probably less than a year, because I know I wasn't there in May. So if we get a report in May, that means it'll have taken us less than 12 months to get this audit report. And I'm hopeful that that's the case.
Well, I think the concern was that 4 years ago, 5 years ago now, you know, all the individuals that ran back then said, you know, we're going to pull out the information in regards to PUB. You know, we're going to.
It never happened.
It never happened.
Yeah.
And I think that's where it comes from.
It's going to happen now.
Did Daniel Mitty have a hand in Daniel's employment at the museum, or was it Felipe?
Dan Amity did not have a hand in the employment of Daniel at the museum. It would have to be Felipe because he's the director. So it was either Felipe or whoever makes the hiring decisions.
Oh, that's right. Well, right at this point, we're a little bit behind. That's why there should be a committee for citizens that have lived in big cities outside RGV. You would save money with their input as how things really work on a daily basis. I like that.
I think, yeah, people who have lived in bigger cities and are here now, that definitely valuable insight. His mom didn't know. Go back to that one. His mom didn't know he was working there. Nobody said his mother did not know he was working there. The comment made earlier was that I don't think his mother even knew that he had applied. But I'm sure once he got the job, he probably shared it with his mother. Nobody said his mother didn't know for 3 years that he worked there.
And I think it was on social media.
What was on social media?
That he was working at the museum. So,
oh, exactly.
People would have known that.
Of course.
Unstable person. That is an assumption.
And that's easy to say now that there's allegations.
Yeah.
But what evidence was there before that there was any instability or anything?
Yeah.
Like I said, the background check, I've been assured, came back clean. And everybody's got the info. Run a background check. Bring it back to this show. And show that there was something that occurred prior to his hiring that should have been caught.
And either Sam or Frankie had said that earlier too, is that when he applied for the job, nothing had been that, as far as we know, nothing had been charged. There had been no charges. Nothing had been brought up before. It was after the fact.
Yes.
But and a lot of it has been the fact that the information wasn't addressed that now you did tonight. And thank you very much.
You're very welcome.
Let me say this, and I'm at this point where I'm getting a little bit on the annoyed side. Let me say this. And I had this discussion. Maggie was on here, I think, had this discussion before. If you want to assume that the individual was unstable because he opted to do drag, wear a dress, or consider himself a female, then you are probably living in the wrong century here, folks. And let me say, anyone and everyone has the right to pursue happiness in any which way that they choose. They can dress however they want. They can dress at the workplace however they want. I think it is a constitutionally given right in this country. We've had this discussion before. And to go back and try to say, well, he was unstable because, he did drag, I think that is unbecoming of anyone in the city of Brownsville. Anyone.
But unfortunately, a lot of people have that.
And it really...
Yeah, I know. We've talked about it before.
And Maggie's been on here. Again, it's not, oh, we've got Santos here. We're trying to kiss people's... I kiss no one's ass.
Right.
No one's. If there's one thing that pisses me off is for someone to go out there and to try to dictate to another individual how they should live, who they should sleep with, what they should wear. It is unbecoming of anyone, anyone that resides in the city.
To put the other side, we also, because I like to look at both sides, we also might be so far behind in the comments that some of this I don't know if it was about something else, but go ahead. Sorry.
Are you trying to contact the Children's Museum about starting the independent investigation?
Yes, via memo. I sent them a memo on, I believe it was Saturday,
I think
or a letter. Probably
I think
not a memo. It was probably a letter.
I think Mayor Mendez came out with a statement. Again, I don't completely think there was the greatest statement out there, but he did at least say something.
And remember, because that's a letter that came from my email as a city commissioner. It's public record. Anybody can request a copy of that.
What did it take so long for us to say something officially? Mea culpa is PR 101 if you have nothing to hide.
Well, remember, like I said earlier tonight, I was informed back on about February 7th by Manny Fossi that I was being implicated as someone who was involved with the hiring or firing. Within 24 hours, I was on his show answering questions about it. So now that other people have or haven't commented to the satisfaction of the public, that's your all's prerogative. But as soon as I was told my name was being mentioned around this, I was out there answering questions within 24 hours.
Yeah, and I'll say this. I was concerned in regards to the timing of the official response or some type of response in regards to letting individuals know. Well, one of the things that I hope that everyone out here they learn from these different situations, and hopefully next time something or anything of this nature should happen, we'll know that needs to be attacked pretty quickly. How much does the MIDI Foundation pay you in 2021?
I think I mentioned that. It's about 14,000, maybe 14 and a half is my compensation as a board member.
Ask District Cho and Mendez about Aubach Road. What's happening in my road is crossing the line, and the city hasn't done anything about it and probably won't.
Aubach. I'm not familiar with it, but I'm absolutely going to look into that.
I think it's
Aubach Road, Joe Tucker.
Aubuck, Joe Tucker. And Joe's been very passionate about this. Why would you wait so long to inform the public? Oh my gosh, either that was a rat.
I'm sure that was an old question. Like I said, I came out within 24 hours.
Any citizen has a right to request public information, 100%. P&Z and the COB always allow this crap in my neighborhood. This is a blockbusting and downright racist.
I'm curious. Now,
acres of Caliche parking lot for this trucking company. What a great deal for these companies on their operational costs. Behind my house on Aubach, I'll go back to Joe's in a little bit. House on Aubach Road, there's going to place another trucking company. Can I expect 8 acres of Caliche parking lots? Can I expect 70 decibels of noise? No soundproof wall.
I don't see how that would be racist, first of all, but I think, if there's something that's going to be generating a lot of noise next to a residential area, ordinance should call for some type of mitigation.
If there is smoke, maybe a fire. So we, I don't even want to guess at what that comment was. And I'm sorry, guys, we've been trying. So we built an airport with no prearranged contracts for business.
To the best of my knowledge.
We needed one. And again, we needed one. And again, one of the things that I've been very, very adamant about, for the longest time, we've needed larger runways. We know that for a fact. I think part of our issue as the city of Brownsville is we're looking back into retrospect. If maybe and I'll say this, maybe it was 5-10 commissions ago. Ultimately, it's your fault. It's the city of Brownsville's fault. It's the people's fault because y'all didn't hold the individuals accountable. You kept on electing los compadres because they're feeding you stupid chicken plates, and you were ignoring the fact that nothing was getting done around you except you were filling your stomach with a damn styrofoam full of cold chicken and warm potato salad. And now you're going to go back and say, oh, well, we should have built a bigger runways. We should have had more property for the zoo to expand. Yeah, but, that's part of the culture that we still have here with us today. We still have people that don't go out and vote. We still have people that don't ask the right questions. We still have people that go like, "Que te valga."
Yes, absolutely.
Yes.
That's
why we don't have a bigger zoo, and that's why we've got an airport that doesn't have runways.
Yeah.
And nothing against you, United Front. It's just in general the people of Brownsville. I hope you understand, commissioners. Y'all have racist policies and next another colonia in Brownsville.
You're going to have to back it up if you're going to make a comment like that. If you're going to say there's racism by the city of Brownsville, you need to be prepared to back it up, because, yeah, that's an extreme comment.
West Loco has an airport. Come on. Yeah, I was surprised to learn that. Going like, West Loco's a rancho. With the money from Musk and the murals, lights, and grants, I'm sure salaries can be compensated to an extent.
You would think. And especially when we hear that, we've got this great fund balance. And for me, I know, and I'm a big supporter of the unions. I expect to see things go very well with the contract negotiations for Brownsville PD and the firefighters. And those should be a priority because they are essential services for the life of the people of Brownsville. Mm-hmm. But we know that such a high percentage of the budget goes to that, and that the other employees are a smaller percentage of the budget. So I don't buy that we can't find a way to ensure there are regular cost of living increases for the other employees that are not covered by union contracts. I don't buy it. I think, to me, successfully managing a city, that's part of it. When you're taking care of the people that are taking care of the citizens, mm-hmm. that's when you're doing a great job as a city manager.
Hurricane season is coming up. What preparations are being done to mitigate any potential impact? Clean drainage, gutters, irrigation canals, cleanup, etc.?
I can't speak to any of those firsthand because I have not had those conversations. I believe that starts in June. So I expect those conversations to be coming. It's very likely Engineering and Public Works, as well as PUB, will be coming to us to give us an update on what preparations are being made in advance of the season.
Mr. Santos, speaking of boards handling millions, can you explain why Brian Martinez received, at your recommendation, a contract for marketing for Camille that the city has determined an ineligible expense? To me, that seems like a conflict.
Now, there's no conflict, but that's because you don't know all the facts. So, one, I made a recommendation because I knew he was qualified. Just like I made a recommendation for 1211 Studios because I'd worked, and I disclosed to the board at the time, I'd worked with both of them in my role with Sombrero Festival. Brian Martinez had been on the marketing team, and Jeannie Houston had been our account manager for years with Braden McCumber, and they both do outstanding work. I had not worked with Jeannie in a social media capacity before, and that's why my recommendation for social media was for Mr. Martinez. I had worked with Jeannie on the website for Sombrero Festival, and that's why my recommendation for the website at Camille was for 1211 for Jeannie Houston. Let's see. So I made recommendations based on the qualifications I knew these individuals to have. There was a third firm that put in a bid as well. And from there, it went to the board of the directors. And like I've said before, it was unanimous. It was a completely unanimous vote that we're going to contract both of these firms, one to do website, one to do social media. So I don't see how it's a conflict to recommend someone to a nonprofit that I know to be qualified to accomplish the things that they need done. Now, with regard to them being ineligible, and we've had these discussions as part of the audit, in order for it to be eligible, the hot tax monies have to go towards promoting the hotel and tourism industry in the city of Brownsville. That means bringing people to spend money or catering to the people who are already here to get them to patronize and spend money that generates those dollars. And if we find that there's a single ad that got run as a result of that work, then it's an eligible expense. To date, I haven't seen that.
Let me. I'll ask something because someone just sent me a
Sure.
thing. There's a thing on the IRS website in regards to the 2019 tax return for the foundation, where Dynamite MIDI, I don't even know, earns $94,226. Is that as a board member, or is she an employee of that?
That's not as a board member. She serves as the associate director for Brownsville. She's on staff.
And Dynamite is the
mother of RJ Mitty.
Mother of RJ Mitty.
Yeah, so our executive director is based in Central Texas. And because of all the work going on down here with the $2 million investment in the community, Dana Mitty is the associate director overseeing the improvements in Brownsville.
You said you have emails proving Roy forced the library hire. You should tell everyone who falsified them, since clearly what you have was fabricated. Roy should know who it was, or at least. I will say that I know for a fact that no one was hired at the library. So I've never said that. Tell everyone who falsified them. I don't know about any falsified emails. I will say that I received a mess load of emails that had come from, if we're speaking about Mr. Brian Martinez's email address. But I don't know. I've never mentioned anything about anyone being hired at a library. Maggie,
And even if it's not the library, there's no one who's ever been hired because I forced the issue anywhere.
Mr. Santos, as I watched last committee meeting, I noticed that the camera setup is not the best and the audio needs improvement. Very true. Commission
So
needs
a couple of comments on that. So City Commission chambers, as lots of folks know, had been undergoing renovations, and those were supposed to be back online in October, November of last year. But because of supply chain issues related to the pandemic, it was the IT, all the information technology infrastructure that was going to go into that meeting room that held it up. And that's why we met at the library for so long. And while we're back in chambers, not everything is running at 100% yet. I know, and it's a microchip or some technological component that is still missing. And that's why we're not where we should be yet with regard to the cameras, the audio, everything else. And that's why if you're in commission chambers, there's the two big screens facing the audience and the two big screens facing the commission. That's because we're not up and running yet, because there are new smaller screens for each commission member that they'll be able to look at, and we won't need the two big screens facing the commission any longer. But yeah, we're not where we should be. And in fact, I got complaints this last meeting because I think if you were watching on YouTube, the only thing you got to see was the slide presentation. You never saw the commission members doing business or anything going on in chambers. And that's unfortunate. I think the WebEx had a better view, but I also got reports that the WebEx was breaking up.
Are these meetings open to the public also? Can we go and sit in? Or is there a limit of number of people that can come and sit in?
I'm not aware of any limits, and especially with the threat matrix downgrading to level 2, it seems like everything is going back to normal. I know CDC has also relaxed mask requirements, even indoors. So yeah, the public is welcome.
Okay.
Good job. Do we have any roads scheduled to be fixed in your district? Jose Marti was supposed to start months ago.
I've not heard that Jose Marti was supposed to start months ago, but I can tell you I have several constituents who reached out to thank me because of the roads being fixed, most recently in Brownsville Country Club. Jalisco Court was one of them. Mary Lu Huerta, who I've known since I was in high school. Her daughter is married to Carlos Elizondo, very good friends of mine. And Mrs. Huerta reached out to me recently to thank me because their street finally got paved. And it was one of several. She's like, they're working 2 blocks over, 4 blocks over, 6 blocks over, and they finally got to her. So yeah, streets are absolutely being paved in my district.
What about corruption in the city now, like Mendez? Terminals are needed because certain local politicians forget who they serve.
If politicians forget who they serve, the public needs to vote them out. And that goes back to, like Erasmo saying, more people need to get out and vote.
Please. Does America get a large amount of oil from Russia? Yeah.
That's my understanding.
Fortunately, yes. Good evening, Roy. I think you're a straight shooter. Which of our city and county commissioners are corrupt? We all know that there are some.
I can't say corrupt because I haven't seen anything firsthand to say there's corruption here. Because if it were corruption, I'd be the first one, and I wouldn't even be going to the DA's office. I'd be going to the feds, just like I did years ago when I was involved with another board that I felt was engaging in illegal practices, and I filed a complaint with the Justice Department. Now, there's a difference between corruption. Like I said, I can't say I've seen this is absolutely corrupt and activity which is unethical. And that I've seen, that I've called out. I had conversations with the mayor after the BCIC grant applications. And I told him, I don't think there was any bad intent on his part, but it absolutely looks bad to the voters because we don't know who was part of the discussions that ultimately resulted in a grant being created. And if people in power were part of those discussions, even if that wasn't their suggestion, because that happened outside of public view, it gives the appearance of impropriety. And as public servants, we are supposed to avoid even the appearance. And we've all got to do our best to accomplish that. And I think the mayor did the right thing when he refused the monies that had already been approved to be awarded and withdrew the application for any further monies being asked for.
Commissioner, District 3, can you look into the drains that have exposed rebar in our district?
Yep. You send me intersection or streets, and I will absolutely have those looked into. Remember, if you go to, and then you can find my city email address on the city website or my personal email address on voteforroy.com.
So the news is fake. Daniel wasn't a pavilion manager. Right.
Well, we know there's, okay, let's, and Erasmo, you've been interviewed by newspapers and TV stations before. Has there ever been a time where you've been misquoted or something?
Oh, I've been misquoted. And I'm like, I said that, but why is that part of the article, newspaper article? And it was like a focus on people. I'm sitting there going, this wasn't part of what I thought we were going to be talking about in the newspaper.
Yeah. And there are times I've answered questions for interviews in writing, specifically because I want to be able to point to that's not what I said. And guess what? They still misquote me.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going into fake news or cover up or conspiracy or anything like that. But just because it was on a banner on a screen, that doesn't make it gospel.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been called every single thing out there. My name's been spelled. They call me Erasmo Cantu the first time I ran for mayor. I'm going like, well, thanks. That was close to when Conrado Cantu had just going like, well, gee, thanks, guys. Commissioner Maggie Erasmo, Jimmy, love you, Jimmy. Started college in 41, graduating 45.
Good for you, David.
We were in at the UT RCV together. Did you UTB TSC? Did you ever get with Jessica on the stripes on four corners on why construction stopped?
I did not get with Jessica on that, but I can speak to that because Stripes is a corporate sponsor of Sombrero Festival, so I have a great working relationship with them. And we were there as part of the ribbon cutting for the location on Paredes and Price. And I was expecting the Four Corners location to open soon, and that seemed to have crawled to a standstill. So I did reach out, and my understanding was that they encountered things unexpected with regard to underground tanks that had been there before that required some additional work, some mitigation, cleanup, whatever the case might be. But that's why the work has been delayed beyond what was originally expected. And I know we've experienced that firsthand with the Midi Foundation in one of the properties that we bought to make improvements in the Midi Culture District. And then we found out after we bought it, well, you know what? There was a gas station here years ago. There's a tank that was never dug up. We don't know if it's got gas, doesn't have gas, what kind of cleanup's going to happen. So I understand how things like that can occur when you're dealing with a property like that.
How about adding trees to the center grass areas on Morrison between Paredes and Pablo Giselle?
Oh, I love that idea because I live on Paredes and I travel that route regularly.
Well, I crash into the medium.
I think that's something I will recommend to the Brownsville Beautification Committee. And that's
to the medium after I'm drinking, but that's a story for 2 years ago.
If Oscar Zertuche is watching, or if anybody knows Oscar, reach out to him. Say, Commissioner De Los Santos is going to call you for the Beautification Committee to put trees in the medians on Morrison.
Hey, Woody.
Oh, I'm glad you mentioned this. Anyone send the attention? Actually, I was going to ask you. This is one of my questions. Let me say, guys, I did a little bit because I was going to see Mr. Los Santos had some more information on what happened was the 10th city that we had. And this is kind of a weird little thing. The reason I got some information in regards to this was because one of the individuals came onto my church page and started going like, well, okay, you're bashing the homeless people that are under expressway. I said, no, we just thought it was curious that we have a 10th city under the freeway. And, just people just want to know where they came from. Did they all come from San Francisco? Or did they all come from California? It's like the South Park episode where all the homeless get shipped into a different place. What happened? I come to find out that these individuals were the ones that used to be behind Disco de Oro. And for some reason, that place at Disco de Oro was shut off because Elstein Park was getting a renovation. So they all just decided to move under the expressway. So I think it's just too new right now. And again, that's all the information I have. I don't know, Mr. Los Santos, I'm wrong. You want to fill in or you have any other information in regards to that?
I can't say you're wrong. I just found out about this probably close to about 4:30, 5 o'clock today. And again, going back to people in the community that keep me informed, I heard about it from Juan Montoya, from Run Run, and from Jerry Danache, who's part of my team. And they do a great job of keeping me informed of things going on in the city. I don't know enough about it yet. I immediately sent it to our city manager who started looking into it with regard to the property that was there by Disco de Oro. I know that's something that had come up when I was running for office and questions persist on it. And what I had been told back then was the ministry that was on the land, I guess, had a lease or rent agreement, whatever it was. And the expectation was that whenever that lease ran out, it was not going to get renewed. And so it may be that has run out, and that's why they're having to move off that land now.
Is there
Some
something that the
That's
city
an
can do to
assumption.
help is there something that the city can do to help? Because that pastor for Red Wagon is intent on helping the homeless, correct? So
yes.
My
is there
understanding.
something that can be done to help him help the homeless? I mean, I know not everybody who is homeless wants to be
Help.
set up in a special spot to live in,
Right.
but for those who do want or who do need,
Now, for those who do want and do need, I know we've got the Ozanam Center, and there are shuttles that run from the Good Neighbor Settlement Home to Ozanam. I know there's been some resistance before, and I've spoken to the folks at both of those facilities. And sometimes it's because you've got some of the homeless folks that have a lot of belongings.
yeah.
And there's no place to keep them when they're getting on a shuttle. They don't want to leave them behind and then find they're gone the next day.
Mm-hmm.
I know the Ozanam folks are working on a downtown shelter, and
Okay.
I specifically want to include a place where folks can check in their belongings so that they're safe overnight. I know the city has approved some funding that should go towards that project, but I don't know exactly where it is on identifying a facility or them being able to open. I know there's folks in the commission who hope to see it be a full service facility,
Mm-hmm.
not just a room with a cot. And I share that desire, but that may be the long-term goal. For me, the short-term goal is get them off the street. Because when you have cold fronts, when you have storms, when you have extreme heat, I'd rather they have a cot and four walls to keep them out of the elements, and then we'll continue to bring in the other amenities as we're able.
Have we looked at cities who have good programs set up for the homeless or good shelters set up for the homeless?
I don't think.
Yes. In fact, let me send you another one first.
I think there's very few cities that have a full grip on the homeless situation.
No, I know, but there's got to be somebody who's done some good work. I mean, you've seen cities who have good animal shelters set up.
Well, there's programs, not necessarily animal shelters, the different programs. There's
No, I realize that, but what I'm saying is that we can look at what other people have done and to try and live up to. Just out of curiosity, not that I mind being here, because 2 hours and 26 minutes have passed, and we're an hour and a half past my bedtime. But are we very far behind on comments?
You better believe it.
Oh my, okay.
I'm a popular guest, Maggie.
I don't mind. I'm enjoying the conversation, so I just wanted to know.
Check out our private chat, Maggie. I just sent you a link.
Okay.
This is for Community First Village. It's just outside of the Austin city limits. This is an entity that the Mitty Foundation has donated to. And after I joined their board, they encouraged me to go visit it to try and bring some of these ideas to Brownsville. It is Mobile Loaves and Fishes that started this. And it's an entire village with cottages, shuttles that go back and forth from downtown Austin out to the village. There's opportunities to work on the village, whether it's blacksmithing, gardening, mechanic shop, all kinds of things. They can make things that can be sold to generate money, or they can just go into town and whether it's panhandling or working a job and then come back and forth. They've got to contribute in some way to the community. But it's little bungalows, and they've got community kitchens, community bathrooms. It's a great, great village. They're now printing 3D houses out there, and it continues to expand. So check out that link, Community First Village in Austin. It's an amazing program. The Mitty family has expressed interest in seeing something like that happen for the homeless in the Valley, and I'm a strong advocate of that.
All right, we're going to go 1 minute answers.
I'd say 1 minute questions, and Commissioner De Los Santos should have an open end to how long he talks.
Oh, Maggie and I will leave. We'll leave you the platform. And
yeah, you just keep hitting comments. Go on.
Quick, very, very short. Do our jails have programs where nonviolent offenders can do work such as cutting grass on their expressway park, etc., help credit time towards their sentence win-win?
I do not know the answer to that. That's a great question.
That's a question.
Maybe something for the city of Brownsville. Please. Mr. Santos is here. I'm asking about how the issue with the flooding when it rains from Morrison down to Palomas and Mission Trail subdivision never happened to this degree before. What is the plan to fix this problem? We talked about it.
And that's one of my biggest concerns is that I see areas, and I've heard from property owners, it was never this bad before. But there have been little things that have come in, that have happened, that have changed, and now it's worse. And to me, that has to do with the development standards. They're not high enough. They're not where we need to be. And so we're creating things that contribute more to the flooding rather than are going to be contribute to the solution. And so we were undergoing the studies right now. I believe August or September of this year, we should start to see some of the fruits of that with regard to what the new standards will look like. But bottom line is our standards have been too low for too long.
100%. Commissioner, when locals see you on the street or out in the community without a formal event, what do they usually say to you? More praise or more complaints?
More praise. I've got several who want me to run for mayor. I've got several who want me to run for Congress. One of the things that touches my heart the most is, and this is just me being me and the things that I do and the things that I fight for, but I've been at city functions before where I'll meet somebody new with the city. And it's usually somebody from a department that knows me. And these are frontline employees. And they'll introduce this is Commissioner De Los Santos, and I'll say hello. And as I'm going on to talk to somebody else, or as they're walking away, over my shoulder, I hear he's the one who's fighting for us.
Mm.
And I love when I hear that. I like that that's how some of the employees see me. And that's who I want to be, because I feel like that's what I was elected to do. By far, I hear way more positive. And there's several city employees who reach out to me, especially after a heated city commission meeting. And they're like, we just want to make sure you're okay, because we love what you're doing, but we don't want you to burn out. And I've told them there's nothing to fear, because I know what I'm fighting for. I know who I'm fighting for, and this fire's never going out.
So Santos, answer all the questions. Thanks, Santos, for explaining my question. We are limited to time of questions. Yes. Have you discussed anything about PUB? Yes, a lot. You can't have a DBA without a business registered with IRS or SOS. Not necessarily. You can. Anything getting done about deep potholes on Boca Chica towards the beach? I hope
That's probably outside the city limit if it's towards the beach. So that's not anything the city can address, but I would think so.
I think it's even a state highway for sure. Hey, Erasmo, have you seen any places for rent? I'm still looking. Yes, Marketplace on Facebook. Do you know if PUB will be providing a reimbursement since Tenasca never happened? No, it won't. I'll answer that.
Don't know. My understanding is not a reimbursement, but my understanding is there's a proposal right now to cut rates.
Yeah. The mayor went out there and stated that they were going to cut rates by 18% or something to that effect. Still does not compensate for the 36% that they increased the rates for Tenasca. And we still haven't gotten any clue or any idea in regards to where that money went, what was done with that money, except that they built a building out there. And again, we've asked commissioners before, they say they cannot account for that money. So it is concerning. But I'm patiently waiting that audit that should be that Mayor Mendez mentioned coming out in May. Still, with that said, I did go out on Mayor Mendez's post and said, it's a good baby step, but it's a step in the right direction. So I consider that praise. Maybe. We'll contact. Thanks. Thank you, Boo. Cameron County Starlink internet update. I think we don't have enough information in regards to that as of yet.
No, I don't.
Yeah, I think none of us do. And I think Cameron County judge stated that more information was going to be forthcoming. We don't know if, again, folks, please don't go out there and just because you read it in the newspaper or in the whatever it came out, where I'm not even sure where it came out, but just because you read it out there doesn't mean necessarily that, oh, we're all going to get free internet. It's not going to happen, guys. We don't even know to what degree, to what service, with what benefit it's going to be to the community, but hey, it's something. PUB board.
Yes.
We will be losing public access to Boca Chica Beach eventually, or are we safe from losing this gem? Cameron County?
I cannot imagine that we will lose it completely, only because this is Texas and the land belongs to the people. I think it's an inconvenience right now when it's closed as often as it is, but I can't imagine that a solution is not too far off, because one, they can afford it, and two, this is Texas and we're going to insist upon it.
I see 57 people watching. Those that tune in are missing out on a great show. Finally, someone is facing the music, answering the couple questions. I am grateful. The truth shall set you free.
Is this the highest rated show yet?
It's the longest.
Watched.
International Women's Day tomorrow. We've actually had a couple of doozies. Celebrating International Women's Day tomorrow. Awesome.
You have to take into consideration how many will watch it after the fact.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that is the kicker.
Yeah, because I have a lot of people come up and say, I started watching it and then I fell asleep 20 minutes in. But then they tell me they watch it the next day or in the middle of the night.
Hit the like button, guys. Yeah. Let me say that one of the things that I've gotten is for some reason there's a little algorithm that you can see in the back. and all of a sudden I see like at 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning, it's like,
Mhm.
I don't know if we're going to get there to 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the morning. We'll probably still be on by then.
That sounds like a challenge. I can do it. I can do it.
Don't throw
Look-
challenges out there because I'm
ready
gullible for
I mean,
challenges.
Maggie and I will leave Commissioner Los Santos here, and I'll give him the access to the platform, guys. Sorry. Commissioner BTX or Bro. Oh, good. BTX.
BRO. I'm an old school. I'm a BRO guy. The BTX is too much like ATX, and I'm like, eh. Let's own our. BRO is the South Padre Island Airport. That's we've been always. Embrace it.
I would like to see a venue where we could seat at least 18,000. Yeah.
So would I, but
Speedo Papa or Elote.
elote every day of the week and twice on Sundays.
At Harvard, they have a hasty pudding where men do dress in drag.
Hell, in high school they've got powder puff.
No, yeah.
Right? I was thinking about that. Like, why that's not going to be allowed very much soon at all anymore, is it?
And I can tell you that I dressed in drag, technically drag, 1.5 times in high school. There was and I'll try and keep this as brief as possible at Osmo. It's going to be more than 1 minute answer. But first, there was a play, part of our English honors class. We had to write, produce, and direct a play. And as we were getting close to the production date, we started to realize that all of the leading roles in the different scenes were all men.
Mhm.
And the girls were like, how come there's nothing with that's really strong for the women? And so I said, you know what? That's absolutely right. We need to fix that. So I wrote a scene that was all women. And it was like a talk show. And I think we were talking about plastic surgery because that was big in the 80s and 90s.
Mhm.
And one of the girls felt very strongly. She was very religious, very dear friend of mine, but very religious. And she just felt that the topic was something she could not take part in. And so she dropped out and they're like, well, what do we do? Because each of these were like a mother-daughter or 2 sisters. And so now one of the duo was gone. They're like, who's going to fill that role? Because now there's one girl who's not going to get to participate. I'm like, you know what? I'll do it. So yeah, I got to dress up as a woman. We were talking about breast implants. My name was Winona, my stage name. And then the second time I was doing Record Mine in high school and I really enjoyed it. And so we had a talent show and I did Elton John and Kiki D, Don't Go Breaking My Heart. So I was dressed half Elton John, half Kiki D. That's why I say 1.5 times.
Okay. It's people like you that people spread misinformation united front. Always being fed by social media and losing the ability to process the simplest things, including events. Okay. 2019, you got 8,000 from Midi Foundation. Is it common that they gave raises during the pandemic if you are now getting 14?
Huh? No. 2019, if I'm not mistaken, I had just joined the board towards the end of 2019. So I didn't get compensation for a full year. That's why it's not the full 14.
So if I haven't worked with you, that means that they don't get a decent shot.
I'm not sure what the question
I
is.
think he means like Brian Martinez and the other lady worked for you, so then they got a shot at the job.
No, that doesn't mean that they don't get a decent shot. That just means that I can't speak to it. If somebody puts in a bid for a job and I don't know them from Adam, that's not somebody that I can recommend.
Mm-hmm.
But if somebody else puts in a bid for a job who I've worked with before, I can say, this is a company that I feel is reputable, or an individual I feel is reputable because I've worked with them. And, if there's others, and that's why when you put in a bid for a job, you should have letters of reference. You should have jobs that you've done before that you can point to and say, this is my work. Because there's contracts that we've awarded, even as the city, that I don't know these companies from Adam, but I trust that the work they've done in the past, and I've seen the jobs in the past, is quality work. And so I put my faith in them and the new job we give them.
Yeah, we were both there at Roca.
Yes.
I love the fine arts. Las Palomas.
And I will say the first time I went to a show there at Osmo, I was mistaken for you.
I don't know. You should take that as a compliment, or I should.
Did you see the one, Commissioner? Did you see what Nelda Rocha put? Which one's the street?
Mission Bend.
Las Palomas. And this was, what were we doing there?
With
The flooding.
Rebar.
Oh no, that's right, the rebar.
Las Palomas.
Sorry.
And Mission.
I've never claimed to be able to keep up with your brain.
I'll have to go back and rewatch the show.
Me either.
To make sure.
Okay, you can quote me, Mr. Papaya Head is a rotten mayor. Take care of the elderly, you nut. But not everyone said he was a good person. What a laugh. Roy, that is exactly the impression with Brian Martinez when he receives contracts something you are associated. Don't you think it's similar to the mayor's BCIC deal?
Oh, absolutely not. I think the mayor's BCIC deal was him applying for $200,000 to then use for his own benefit. As where with Mr. Martinez, it was to perform a job that was needed for an organization, and he was someone qualified to perform that job.
Right, I'm glad you came on with Erasmo to tell your job. Love teaching history. He's amazing. This guy's got what? I have tangible evidence. Secretary Attorney General will be visiting us soon. I want a chess plaza like New York. They are not homeless. They are moochers. Go back to where they belong and leave Brownsville. No! No trees or brush on Morrison going towards Public Sale. That will be a perfect hiding place for Brownsville PD.
I like that.
I know exactly about driving a tad bit over the limit. Clearly, right, Maggie? You don't understand my point is that folks are highly fed up with what the media implies rather than watching the official release. I think that there's need to be a little balance on that level, but I understand what you're saying. That is how panics start and things get out of hand when further the ability to speak does not make you intelligent. Yes, there should be balance. We need to get a Class 3 gaming in Texas. We are losing too much money in surrounding areas. Preach.
Amen.
De Los Santos, Las Palomas, and Mission Bend Drive. Yes. Atavo must be a great thing. I am typing. I don't need to say how smart you are. A smart link internet, $220 a month. Yikes.
Oh, damn.
That's a lot of money. Good job, Maggie.
How fast is that?
Thank
I wonder.
you, Sparky. I don't know what for, but thanks.
Bro, please. Hey, bro, let's stop BTX.
Yes.
Okay, no trees. How about a
I like wildflowers too.
Do you believe that walking trails should have security panic buttons along the trails in case of...
Yes, absolutely. I'm a strong advocate of that. I remember when I was on the Board of Adjustment and there was a new cell phone tower that was supposed to go up on the west side, but a lot of residents were like, no, I don't want to see that. That's an eyesore. And I'm like, that's one of my biggest concerns is that we've got areas of the city with very poor cell phone service. And yeah, if you're out walking on a trail and even if you just have an accident, you twist an ankle, break a leg, whatever, how do you call for help if you've got no signal? So I think definitely there should be panic buttons out there, just like at the university. We should have the same thing.
Yeah. Longoria Elementary, Canales Elementary. Not that I'm on the phone on my cell phone during work time. I'm just saying sometimes your phone will light up and it'll say, welcome to Mexico. So I'm just saying, yes, you're right. And you don't even have to go very far out there.
Yep.
And guess what?
Well,
I don't believe you. I don't believe you. We're not done.
I was gonna say, you weren't kidding when you said 3 hours.
I think I will need help on that matter. Yes, send me an inbox, come on. I know exactly what you're referring to. Send me an inbox. My phone number is always everywhere. It's easy to find. In regards to what you were mentioning, please reach out to me.
And if he doesn't answer you, Luis, try it again later. I've sat next to him, the constant binging of his phone with messages coming in. Yeah.
Well, it's crazy, but the other night the other night I went on a dinner date, and I know I kind of felt bad for anyone that goes out. When it was Los Santos and I went for lunch today, I made sure to put the phone like apart and go like, please don't be buzzing and buzzing. And I had it on mute. But that night I just got out of the movie, so I was out for 3 hours, and all of a sudden it's like beep 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 beep. That I had dinner with, probably the last time that ever happens. But this show is one for the books. It is a good one. Por eso ya no voy. Jimmy, you still owe me damn lunch, bro. Good show. Y'all did great. Good night. Good night.
Thank you.
Santos, thanks for coming on. And
anytime.
It was a great show. A little bit longer than what Maggie's used to.
Yeah, for sure.
I still want Frankie on.
I agree.
I want Frankie on.
We'll do Frankie. Let's do something after y'all's next meeting, and
yes,
we'll bring
Frankie. And I get the night off, and then I can just sit back and watch.
No, one of these days we need to have breakfast and invite Maggie to join us.
It has to be when it's not school time.
We can do it on the weekend.
Okay.
Not this Saturday because I'm going to Mexico City. Guys, I will be in Mexico City. I'll be in Mexico City this weekend. I'll be watching Jose el Soñador. I will be going to the pyramids. I will be going to church. And then I will be going to Frida Kahlo Museum and Museo Antropología, Nacional de Antropología.
Nice.
So, guys, again, Mr. Santos, can't thank you enough. Thank you. Nothing was prepared. Nothing was said. We went out there and did our best. We got every single question. So I don't want to hear, oh, y'all skipped my question. Y'all didn't answer. And again, I appreciate it. The true metal is proven from an individual that, jumps into the skillet knowing that the fire is kind of high. So
yeah,
thanks.
and I was gonna say, from what I've seen tonight, you're a class act, sir. So thank you very much.
Maggie. That means a lot. Thank you.
Guys, have a great evening. Social distance, face covering, hand sanitizer. If you still believe in all that crap, I'm done. Guys, it's that. Have a great rest of the evening. It's a very short one for Maggie and for me, and for Mr. Los Santos. Guys, be good to each other, and please continue to be good to me. We'll be back tomorrow morning at 9:00 in the morning. Not Maggie though.